lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Jeremy Lee in the building and every guest that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it. Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
All right, everybody. I've been looking forward to this one. I know you have too. Welcome to episode number 210 of Sports Cards Live. It is Saturday night, December the 30th, 2023. My name is Jeremy Lee. I would like to thank everybody who tuned in last week for our episode with Steve Ho, also known as at Mr. Fosh. We had a great episode. Check that out. Next Saturday, our guest is a collector of unopened wax packs and boxes. His name is Rex Morgart. Excited to have him on for a nice collector type of episode. MC Mondays live eBay auction coverage resumes 2 nights from today on New Year's Day evening. That will also happen to be the 500th ever live stream on Sports Cards Live. Join us Monday for MC Mondays live. I'd like to ask you to join close to 500,000 people who've downloaded the Center Stage app across both iOS and Android for quick comps and card management features. Their app is the fastest and most accurate at card shows or at home to help you price your cards. You can build, organize, and share your collection with your friends and find other collectors to follow using their social sharing features. Marketplace features are coming soon, so check out their Instagram account and join me in supporting the great team and the innovation they are undertaking. Also, use protection, practice safe swaps. Veriswap is an app and middleman service that lets you securely trade cards through the mail. Every transaction up to $1 million is covered by their guarantee. Check them out on iOS and Android. Veriswap is now live in Canada. We'll be opening a Canadian hub soon. They're offering $50 in free trade credit to anybody who adds 10 hockey cards to their account. Join me and Veriswap founder Raymond Lee. We do a every second Tuesday Instagram live trade desk. They're a lot of fun. You come on and tell us who you think won the trade. Also, shout out hobbynewsdaily.com. Check out their website for daily hobby information. Also, Leighton, Sheldon, Just Collect will be joining us for the Vintage Spotlight shortly tonight. I want to thank all partners, sponsors, and of course, our loyal viewers and listeners for your ongoing support. If you're not yet subscribed to the YouTube channel or the podcast, please take a moment and do so. I want to wish everybody a very happy New Year, happy holidays. And as always, your comments and your questions are in play. So let's get to it. Tonight's guest has been on several times. We don't need an intro, but you know him as the former CEO of Leaf Trading Cards. Let's bring him out. Mr. Brian Gray, welcome back to the show. Brian, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, J Money, how are you doing?
I'm good.
I'm episode 210, which is half of 420, and I've been accused of being on drugs with my hobby attitude. So it all kind of makes sense in a mathematical kind of everything makes sense in the world way. It's very weird to hear you say former CEO and owner and founder and all that stuff of the new Leaf. It's a little surreal, but you're my first interview since then, and I've had a bunch of people ask to talk to me. And I wanted to take some time and just like absorb my exciting life changes. And I'm finally ready to talk and have fun and be a hobbyist again, which I'm getting to be for a little while, for at least a minute or two.
I'm noticing that you're really just flexing your hobby muscles on the various social platforms. And it's nice to see, Brian, you're no longer sort of tethered to a specific, to a card manufacturer. We'll get into that. Let's get into a bunch of it right now. I think the thing I'm most curious about, Brian, is, I'm wearing the shirt. I'm wearing the Brian.
I love it. Oh, my God. And I mean, listen, that's back when I had gray hair. Obviously, I've got younger since I retired. but no, I mean, that's one of my favorite cards ever. And, I don't even have a copy of it. I'm going to have to go buy on eBay and buy a copy. I don't have a copy of my collection. So
I got one right there.
I'm going to go buy one on eBay when we hang up tonight. So I feel sad I don't have one, but I do have some of my new Santa Claus cards, which if you go to my website, bigbridedeals.com, you'll see the new Santa packs where you can get the last ever Leaf card of me. It's actually me as Santa. And you have to look carefully to see it. It's pretty well done. The artists were phenomenal, but they're autographed. So they're part of Pop Century also. So it's kind of fun. But anyway, it's cool to see you in the shirt. I love it. Makes me happy.
Nice. Well, I'm wearing it for you, buddy. All right, listen, I want to get into Leaf. And really, my first question is, you've sold Leaf. You no longer are an owner. I don't even think you own a small percentage of it, or do you? So what is what is your exact status relative to Leaf right now, and why did you decide to sell?
Well, first, I have no equity ownership in Leaf. I could have kept a little piece, but it was time. It was time. I mean, listen, I brought Leaf back from the dead. I did Razor in 2008 and 9. I brought Leaf back from the dead in 2010. Probably one of my greatest achievements was buying the Leaf brand when it was sitting dormant, when Panini decided it wasn't worth paying for anymore, when they took over Donruss. And, we built something, and I feel like, we did everything that I could have done. We took a brand that was dead. We took a brand that was basically just baseball draft picks, airbrushed, and we turned it into something that every attempt to do the same thing had failed. And again, great teams at Press Pass. Sage is still around, but like people who tried to go the unlicensed route, even Classic with Ken Golden, these companies that tried to go unlicensed, they all failed. They either went bankrupt, gave up, or stayed so small they were not really relevant in the marketplace. And we did it. We built something phenomenal. We made unlicensed or player licensed, I like to call it. We made it something mainstream. Like metal baseball, metal football became like they were treated like rookie cards instead of treated like just junk that that kind of filled like a 1 month gap before the pro stuff came out. So with that being said, we did something really special there. I feel like that was my goal the whole time, was to prove everyone wrong, because I was told by everybody, and I mean hobby veterans told me that what I was taking on and what we were taking on was just too much. It was not sustainable. There's no way we could be successful. And the reality is we were successful. I mean, I am restricted from some information I can't say, but I will tell you in 2022, Leaf made more money than you can imagine. It was mind-blowing. I mean, it became a monster company, with a lot of sales and a lot of profit. So for me, it was really like, what else am I going to do? I'd done a bunch of stuff. So I felt like there's nowhere else to go, nothing else to do. And the fact is, I paid a very high price for that success. I paid a very high price for that profit. I did a mea culpa type video on my YouTube channel where I basically just said, I made the business more important than my family for some number of years. I made it more important than anything. It was my whole life. The people at that building I spent more time with than my family. I missed important things because I wanted to win. I wanted to make money no matter what it took. The reality is I paid too high a price. Yes, I made a bunch of money. I said, I'll enjoy retirement. Listen, the scoreboard doesn't lie. We've done pretty good, but it was just time. I couldn't do much more now. But what made it possible, and I say this because I think I got a lot of attention for being Leaf, and that's just not the case. I was definitely a spearheader or a visionary, but we had a team. I mean, Greg Cohen is probably the most talented product guy in the business, hands down. I would say he's number one. Josh Pancat, who we brought on in the executive side of things, very strong. Jim Kohler, our design guy, phenomenal. Head of production and design, phenomenal. CJ Breen, who we brought on as a kid straight out of college, phenomenal in the influencer and pop culture space. I mean, we had built a team that was so good that I really could literally walk away and not sell the company and it would have been fine, which made me feel better that I wasn't selling a company that the minute I sold it, it's going to shit, going to crap, whatever. I did not feel that way. I knew it would be successful still. So the timing was right. So now, it just made sense. It's also fiscally responsible. The hobby had grown so much from 17 to 23. Like, if I don't take my chips off the table at some point, I think I'm irresponsible fiscally to my family. Again, I had enough money. It was fine anyway, but I'm in a good position now. I'm really happy. The scoreboard has been very kind to me. I'm not missing any meals, even though I am getting a little skinnier. I lost 50 pounds, but you can't tell hardly because I kept the camera high, but it's a great thing. Makes me very happy. And for the first time in my life, the business isn't telling me what to do, because I had to live and breathe this business every minute of every day. And for the first time, I can do whatever I want. If I don't want to do anything today, I won't do anything. If I want to go whatnot stream, I can go whatnot stream. If I want to go comment about things on Twitter with No Holds Barred, which is my new YouTube channel, I can say whatever I want. And I'm not speaking for Leaf. I'm not speaking for anyone else, just me.
Let me ask you this, Brian. Let me ask you this. because you can now say whatever you want, no holds barred. Over the past several years, you know, especially during the pandemic with the proliferation of social media and all these interviews and coming on my show, I think this is probably your 10th time on now. You know, were you forcing yourself to hold back a lot of things? Like, is there anything that you held back along the way that you can now talk about, or anything that if you could talk about would do damage anywhere? Like, how much stuff did you hold back over these past few years?
Well, I mean, listen, I'm not one to mince words, and I always said what I meant what I said, and I got a lot of heat for it. I mean, I saw people in chat here, guys like Mario Alejandro, who definitely is a critic of mine, you know, guys who don't like me or whatever, who over the years have made decisions that they're going to, you know, that they don't like my perceptions of the hobby, my opinions, my outgoingness, my arrogance that I might have had. And they're right in some ways. I was absolutely arrogant. I was absolutely cocky. Not because I'm that guy naturally, because, I mean, you know me off the air. I'm really not that. The reality is that's part of, like, the Vince McMahon. That's part of, like, and so I can be a different guy now. I can really be just true to me. And I'm not just saying in a controversial or like give hot sports opinions way. I'm saying, like, now I can tweet that I'm appalled at what's going on in Israel-Palestine. You can't say things like that when you own a company. You can't give an opinion. You can't say, I think we need to include people in life and be more inclusive of people and not ostracize people because they're either poor, colored, or LGBTQ. You know, these are things you can't say when you own a company like Leaf, not because you can't have opinions, but because you get pigeonholed. It was bad enough when I made a Trump card or a Biden card sleeping at his desk, the hate email I got, or when I sued Andrew Luck, people said, you better not ever come to Indy ever again, you know? And sure enough, he didn't last that long anyway. But it's like, I got enough, like, holding back, you know? And again, I just want to be me. And you know what? If loving people, and that's a big part of what I'm doing in retirement, is I'm loving people. I'm supporting, I'm giving a ton of money to charities. I'm serving. I'm doing things that, like, now, mentorship, whatever it is, I'm doing things now that, like, the business never allowed me to do. And so, like, I can be real. And so I think, yes, there's things that I'm holding that I probably held back because they're politically not correct for a CEO to talk about, or an owner of a company, God forbid. You know, CEO is bad enough, the owner even worse. I think I do know things that could hurt the industry, because when you're an insider, you know a lot of stuff. And I like, even when I put out my little videos where I'm kind of saying a few things, like giving teases, like I broke the news that Fanatics had already signed the top 3 quarterbacks. Now, maybe Jaden Daniels is going to be in that top 3. Maybe they only have 3 of the top 4. But, like, I broke the news that they had signed all the players. Every year I knew what was happening before it happened. I just couldn't say it because, well, it wasn't my position to, like, throw my competitors under the bus. Now I just call it like I see it. Fanatics they got the 3 of the top 4 quarterbacks. You know, woo. You know, it's over. You know, I had a good idea what the WWE settlement was before it kind of. So we hear a lot of stuff. Sometimes our information's good, sometimes it's bad. But I know a lot of stuff from over the years from all the companies, and a lot of it's not good. A lot of it's dirty and filthy. And it's just, I'm not here to try to ruin the industry or to try to create concern that the industry is not a good place to be. I'm most concerned with, I want to be a hobbyist again. Someone said that in the chat. Like, I just want to be a hobbyist again. And now I don't know how long that'll last, because obviously things are boiling now that people know that I'm, you know, not involved with Leaf in any capacity anymore. There's obviously things brewing in the background that, you know, I'm retired today, you know, but so we'll see what happens. But right now it's so fun just to be a hobbyist. I'm buying cards because I love them. I'm buying a bunch of non-sport cards because I love it. I think it's so undervalued compared to everything else. I just think it's insanely undervalued. So I was like, I just do whatever I want. It's kind of fun.
So now that you're not with Leaf anymore, and you know, when you are with Leaf, when you're running a trading card company or any big company in our industry, and I'll include Leaf in that group of, you know, big players within the space. You know, I think people might treat you one way, you know, yesterday, and another way today. Have you learned anything about people? Even people who are your friends, since you've left the company, since you've sold? Have you been disappointed by anybody? Have you been pleasantly surprised by anybody?
I would say 80% disappointment, because I figured out that I had friends in different parts of the industry that were my friends primarily because of what I could do for them. They wanted deals. They wanted to make money. They wanted, so again, this is no different. I mean, Donald Trump probably gets more calls when he's president than when he's out. Like all those people that were calling him, like to talk to him. Like, and I'm not Donald Trump. I don't want to be, but I mean, anyone who's in a position where they have influence or power or the ability to impact people positively, they call. They call easily. I think it's, a lot of people don't call anymore, and that's okay. I mean, it's part of life, some people I work with, some of them I don't talk to anymore. And it's not that they're bad people. I think it's just, we don't have anything else in common besides that I was the boss.
Yeah.
I'm sure some of them hate me, I'm sure some of them love me. I'm sure, but it's like anything. Again, at the end of the day, it's not about any of that. I did a video calling my employees to the table and saying, listen, these guys are great. Give them a chance. They're good. Because I wanted to give them a parting goodbye that was the right kind. That was, they're great guys. They're very talented. They're very whatever. And I wanted people to know that. And I wanted them to know that even though I may not be hanging out at the office or talking to them today or ever or this week or whatever it is, depending who the employee is, doesn't mean I'm not rooting for them. I want them to do great. Even if I end up not being in retirement forever, I still want them to do great.
All right. Yeah, no, there's
a lot of disappointment. I will say I do have a lot of disappointment because there's people I consider my very best friends who just, aren't present like they were. But then that 20% have blown me away because there are guys that called me right after I did this and said, I just want you to know you can do nothing for me, but I love you.
Yeah. And
now we can have a different kind of relationship because now it's completely legit. And it's like, you're right. This is legit. So the people who are my friends now more than ever, I'm spending tons of time with. I'm investing in them. I'm giving them advice when they need it or ask for it. I mean, it's different. But again, I will give that as a cautionary tale to everybody. Believe nothing what you hear and half of what you see. Because again, this happens to people all the time. You work somewhere for 40 years, you get to watch when you leave, and you never hear from these people again. It's kind of like high school. You think these guys are going to be your friends your whole life, and they're not there. The hobby's been that way a little bit, but I'm still around. And so now it's a different group of people who are becoming engaged with me. Because now it's about a love of the hobby or other things. It's different. It's just different. It's not what can Leaf do for them or what can BG do for them. It's something else.
Yeah. I hear you. Okay,
I wish I could have the answer. Like everybody, it's better than ever. All my relationships are great.
No, you go with the real answer.
It doesn't work that way. And I want people to hear this because other people are going to retire someday and it's not going to be the same. I mean, I do have people leave I haven't spoken to since, I left. But I also have people that I'm great friends with there. They're great people. It doesn't change anything. It's just, they're busy as hell. I'm busy doing whatever I'm doing. So it's just, things are going to change, but it's all good. I don't have hatred for anyone except for a couple of people who are mean to me out there. And I don't even have hatred for them. I just laugh sometimes. I think it's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to be able to laugh at some of the stuff, especially when you're public like yourself. All right, let's take a minute, Brian. Let's go to the comments. I want to whip through these.
And don't be scared to put the ones that are mean up there too.
I got them. First of all,
I don't like one thing about me is
don't worry. Let me go. I got you. All right. Justin Bode wanted you to wear your salmon colored polo tonight, guys. He's wearing green. Don't be disappointed. Mike Double V, happy Saturday. Jerry Petrie says Brian Gray is a legend. He certainly is. Maybe in his own mind, but also in many of our minds as well. Maybe. Jake Dahl, happy weekend to you, buddy. Todd McDonald, happy New Year. Says always a great show, and BG is on. Jeremy M, happy holidays. Albert Jones, Skeppy in the house. Al G, Jeff McMahon's looking forward to it. Jerry Petrie likes the Center Stage app. Very cool. Studio Sports got to show us that Pro Set t-shirt. There it is. Brian Gray, Super CEO. Good evening, Royals. Good to see you. Alan Terwell, nice to see you, buddy. Andrew Gogan, happy New Year. Happy New Year, JP. Robert Scott, happy New Year to you. Al is wearing his Super CEO shirt right now, too.
Love it, man.
Brian, Jerry Hodge, good evening to you. Okay, Dan Brown says, I'm not really a fan of BG. It seems a lot of what he does are sad, cheap tricks to make a quick buck. His last two tweets of cards just seem desperate attempts for attention to make a quick buck. To which Mario, who I'm trying to get on the show, Mario, if you're there, let's keep those conversations going, says, agreed, Daniel. So, Brian, I'm going to pause here and let you kind of address the comment that Daniel makes about, are you trying to make a quick buck when you're putting out some cards, or is there a different purpose? Please.
Okay, first off, I mean, I'll only say, I can't say how much we sold Leaf for, but it's more than anyone here would ever guess. If you all guess numbers, not one person here would be close. It'd probably be higher than any of you think. So I don't really need any money, just to say. I tweeted out a couple of cards that were AI generated because I want to get people's opinion of, and it kind of is like Leaf Reimagined, except I'm thinking about taking it a step further. And so I'm considering making limited runs of just 25 copies of a bunch of crazy AI generated things. Basically things that will never occur in real life, but could only happen on trading cards with AI. Like Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's wedding, which has not happened. Or Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump making out. Like kissing cousins or something. I mean, again, I'm not making a comment on what I believe or like, but I'm just saying we can do crazy stuff that's never happened before. So Daniel here does not like that. He thinks I'm trying a get-rich-quick scheme by making a bunch of cards. So I did the math real quick in my head. I'm going to make 25 cards that I'm going to sell for $19.99. That's $500. Okay? So let's say I make 1,000 cards this year and I make $500,000. I'm giving more to charity than $500,000 this year. So trust me, and I'm not making thousands of cards where I'm making $500. My point is, if I wanted to ring the register, I'd sell 50,000 of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. I'd advertise it everywhere. I'm going to make 25 cards and I'll be gone in 10 seconds. Whoever trusts me and buys them will make a bunch of money. Whoever doesn't, doesn't. So again, they said this at Leaf too, though. When we made a bunch of these web exclusive cards, people were like, oh, that's just a cash grab. That's just this. No, you can say that. You know what the cash grab is making? A gazillion cases of something with 498,000 parallels to try to make the licensing guarantee with the manufacturers, with the licensees. That's a cash grab. A cash grab isn't making the Pete Weber card where he inscribed, "Who do you think you are? I am." Or making Livy Dunn's first card. Or making the reimagined card where Nikola Tesla is standing with his arm on a Tesla, which could never have happened because there weren't even cars back then. Or having the Pope dribbling a basketball through the Vatican lobby, or having Lionel Messi in an Italian church with 1,000 World Cup trophies there instead of pews. Like, these were not get-rich-quick schemes. They were trying to create something out of the box, different, unique. Anime Nation. Those cards are awesome. We've done some really cool cards there. And the vision there was, we saw what other people were doing with manga and things like that. And we were like, that's so one-dimensional, it doesn't take it to the next level. And that's what Anime Nation did. It was truly cool, creative, artistic, cool stuff. So, again, people like Daniel here, who I did not block on Twitter, despite the fact I probably should have, because he got abusive, actually. But again, I don't block. Leaf does block people. I don't block people. Because, again, he can say whatever he wants. I just ignore him. I don't ignore him. I actually read it and then say, that's stupid. And then I move on. But the reality is, there's going to be people who don't like certain stuff, and that's okay. But if you do think that I'm sweating desperation, or you think that I'm desperate to make a few dollars off of 25 Taylor Swift cards, you can rest assured that my sale of Leaf will keep me comfortable for at least a little while, wouldn't you think? I'll be okay. I think I was okay before. Now I'm really, really, really okay.
I'm sure you're fine. I'm sure you're fine. Let's go to this comment here. Cardboard Pocket.
Mario Alejandro, because who was the Mario A? I'm pretty sure that's him that commented.
Yeah.
First off, Mario hasn't been a fan of mine for a long time. He said it. He'll tell you he likes a few Leaf cards, but that's just like saying, when people say you're a racist, you go, "Oh no, I know the Jeffersons. It's okay." No, that's not the same. Carol O'Connor, Archie Bunker was a racist, even though he knew the Jeffersons. So you can say you liked a couple of things I made. That doesn't make you a fan. But the reality was, he's done a really good job breaking some news on Twitter recently and doing a pretty good job. And I like to read his stuff because it's he talks about Pacific and he talks about cards in the past that he really liked. And I'm a hobbyist. So I actually like the nerdy card stuff like that. So I'm actually a fan of some of the stuff he writes. The problem is, and you saw this with other people too, in the heat of the business, you honestly get way more views trashing a controversial figure like me than you do saying, you know what, BG did some amazing things in the hobby. You're going to get like 6 likes on that post. But when you talk crap about me, you're going to get like 300 because it's fun, you know?
Yeah.
It's
All right, let's keep running. Leighton's going to join us in about 5 minutes for Vintage Spotlight segment. That's about a 10 to 12 minute segment during the show, and then after that we'll be back with you. But first of all, I want to say hi to Michael Ham, Foul 5 Ball. D Nick says Brian was one of the nicest and real people I've ever met personally in person. That's nice. Nice comment, D Nick. Chris C. Brian, do you feel we're in a new junk wax era, or is just being printed more across more, or is it just being more printed across more brands?
I'll keep it short.
Yeah.
We're not in a new junk wax era. We are probably in an era where products are too expensive in the marketplace. Some of it is things manufacturers can't control, like players wanting more money than ever. But some of it is also, you know, the secondary market prices going crazy, breaks, and all these things. You know, I think there's a lot of reasons why products. So I think it's more the products are not priced correctly versus there's too much. Because even though there's a lot, you don't know junk. I mean, junk wax. Like if I told you, I'll tell you one story. I was going to release this in my book, which I'm working on, but I got a call one time from Upper Deck, and I'll keep it really short. And they asked us to fly to LA. So me and John Klasnick, who owned Edgeman, we flew to LA. They made us sign a non-disclosure, which was good for 20 years, which that time frame is now passed. And they had a closeout on 01 Golf. 20,000 cases of SP Authentic, the one that's worth like 60,000 a case or 30,000 a case. They had 20,000 cases of SP Authentic and 200,000 cases of Upper Deck Golf. 200,000 cases. That didn't even include rack packs. That was just hobby and retail. So like the numbers you think, we're not in a junk wax era. And that wasn't even the junk wax era. That was the kind of junk wax era. 20,000 cases of SP Authentic. I bought 20,000 boxes of 056 Upper Deck Rookie Update Hockey from Upper Deck with Crosby at the end of that year. David Adams bought 20,000 boxes of Upper Deck Ice Hockey from 056. So like, simmer down. We're not even close to a junk wax era. Now, the problem is every player's got 1,000 rookie cards. The products are overpriced. There's a whole nother set of problems that we've got to figure out. But I don't think it's that we're in a new junk wax era. I think we're in a very dysfunctional market in other ways.
All right. Daniel Brown says, when you threw your employees under the bus after the Zelensky Putin card release, I lost all respect. You want to speak to that?
Yeah, I came up with the idea for that. A card of Zelensky and Putin boxing, because I think that's a pretty creative card. There's a battle. There's a battle, and it really is. It's like Zuckerberg, and I did the same thing with Zuckerberg and Musk. We decided to pull the card, but we'd done a scheduled tweet, and it came out, and we immediately killed it because it was in bad taste. That was in bad taste. But again, we have to throw ideas out there and try things that are out of the box. And it's just, this is one where and again, everyone agreed it was a good idea. Then at the last second we bailed, and then poof. You know, it was a bad idea. It should probably not. I don't feel bad about it. I would have made it if all things had been said. But the team
did you throw anyone on your team under the bus?
I don't know what Daniel's talking about, unless it was just that it got listed when it wasn't supposed to, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the buck stops here. Or it just stopped here. It doesn't stop here anymore. But when I was the owner and the CEO, like, it's on me no matter what.
Yeah.
And you can talk any crap you want about me, but the reality is, I'll take it. I'll take all, just like cheese. I'll take it all. Just put it on me because it's all my fault. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm the boss.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so happy not to be in the boat I was in, because now I don't have to hear any of this crap anymore. If they do great, super. They deserve it all. If they do terrible, I'm sorry. They're going to get it all. My legacy is over at Leaf. The fact was, this hobby was never my legacy. That was one of my faults, is I made this hobby my legacy. And my legacy was me as a dad and a husband and the hobby and a friend and a mentor and a whatever. And that's part of why I've had to take this look at my life and say, what the hell am I doing? Killing myself working.
All right, let's say hello to Hobby Champs. And finally, Justin Bode says he just watched the first time you're on Sports Cards Live, episode 9, Brian. That's almost 4 years ago.
I bet my hair was gray as heck back then.
Yeah. I gotta say, I like the older looking Brian over this this new young buff looking dude we're sitting with right now. Look at you.
I was looking old and I wasn't exactly the picture of fitness. I'm still not, but I'm on my way. I figure someday I'm going to weigh like 130 pounds. I'm just probably going to be laying in a casket when it happens. That's the bad thing.
It's good that you're taking care of yourself. Brody the Kid, what's going on? Good to see you, Brody.
Brody.
Lapper, good evening to you as well. All right. We're gonna bring Leighton on for the Vintage Spotlight segment. Everybody, Leighton comes on with me every Saturday night at about the half-hour mark, and we talk vintage. And I always ask my guest to come with a question for Leighton, and Leighton to come with a question or a topic for the guest. So let's bring him on. Leighton, welcome back to the show. Happy New Year to you. You guys know. I'm guessing you guys know each other. Is that right?
I do, Brian. You look great, bud.
How you doing, my friend?
Good. Happy New Year.
Thanks. Same to you, partner. Same to you.
Good stuff. All right. So let me ask you this then, Brian. Do you have anything vintage wise that you'd like to pass by Leighton, get some expertise? Listen, not to take away from your own, but anything you on your mind that we could spark a conversation with Leighton about?
Well, I think the two things that come to mind with vintage, because again, I've always been a supporter that just because a card doesn't shine doesn't mean it doesn't shine. And so many people are caught up in, the brand new shiny stuff. They forget about the classic era of cards. But I think, it's funny. I've been looking at some of these indexes on some of these data information consolidation sites. And it is amazing how well vintage is holding up currently compared to most of the new stuff that's getting whacked. So obviously, I'm sure Leighton's experiencing the excitement about having some place that feels like a safe haven. But what I told Jeremy earlier is I really now my number one buy in the hobby, and half of it's vintage and half of it is new stuff that people are missing out on, is non-sports. Because I look at 54 presidents, 54 Topps Bowman U.S. presidents, and I'm looking at Abraham Lincoln is a $30 card, and in 54 Topps not Outcat, that's a rookie K line, but Billy Martin's $30. He's a spare common type guy in 54. And you're telling me that Abraham Lincoln or George Washington is a $30 card. You're out of your flipping mind. And that goes, I think it's all over the place. It's not just that one set. It's the 62 Kennedy stuff. It's getting away from presidents. It's Horrors of War. And it's all this stuff is so cheap compared to the sports counterparts. I've been feasting. I'm buying so much stuff. And I'm getting so many cards graded. I've done thousands of cards with SGC recently, all non-sports, because I just see a huge gap there. And again, I know you're a lot of sports, but what do you think on that piece of the puzzle? Because if I had to name a number one buy in the hobby, it's a combination of vintage non-sports and the biggest celebrities in the world, their first ever cards. So kind of what do you think on that front, Leighton?
Well, Brian, I appreciate you bringing it up, and I happen to love vintage non-sports. For those that are, listening out here, whether it be live or later on, Brian, you bring up some really great points, but I wanted to point this out to everyone. So in terms of production, right, because there's not a lot of statistics from way back in the 1910s, 20s, and 30s. They're doing Horrors of War cards. Fast forward to the 50s and 60s, they're doing Batman, Gilligan's Island, and President's cards. But I think the one thing that everyone can agree on is that of the major four, baseball, basketball, football, hockey, and then non-sports, once again, non-sports being all-encompassing like I just described, they absolutely produced the least amount of non-sport cards, vintage, from those eras because there just wasn't the demand that there was for the respective sports at the time. So if you fast forward to today, Bri, you see a lot of interesting things happening in cards. Of course, some of it happening from Leaf in the modern market, but in general, people are going after Jay-Z cards. You're talking about celebrities' first cards. So some of the things you're bringing up about vintage non-sport cards are great points, but consider, though, that the world is vast. So in other words, do you value presidents? Do you value landmarks? Do you value good art like Mars Attacks? Do you value superheroes like Batman? So my point is, Bri, I do love vintage non-sports, but if you get caught up in the macro, it's a little overwhelming because you can collect cats and birds. I'll be honest, man. I don't like cats. I don't like birds. I don't need cards of them. Thanks for laughing. But, the joking aside, I really do like vintage non-sports. And I think, if nothing else, just collect what you like, as you're saying, Bri, even if you never sell a card. I was watching some of your earlier chat with Jeremy. You clearly don't have to buy these and then resell them after what you did with Leaf. So once again, congrats. But
Thanks.
the point being, these are really fun things. Like, it's awesome that you can buy an Abe Lincoln for $30 versus whether it be Billy Martin for $30. We're, to be honest, buying a $30 blaster box and certainly not getting anything comparable to the visual art that's as appealing as some of the vintage non-sport that's out there. So I love vintage non-sport cards.
I love that stuff too. Absolutely love it. Leighton, anything that you had on your mind to talk to Brian about now that, you know, maybe I'm guessing perhaps the first time you've really talked to him since he sold the company?
Yeah. So, you know, Brian, I'm just curious, putting aside all of the other noise, right? You don't own Leaf. You know, you can clearly see you still love the hobby. What do you like either the most, or do you get the most enjoyment of, or out of in the hobby, whether it be it's currently, whether it be previous when you were, you know, at the head of Leaf, or even prior to that? I'm just curious for you yourself. What do you actually enjoy about the hobby?
I mean, honestly, I like trying to outsmart the market a little bit, you know, because I mean, again, you have to remember, like in 1989 or 90, you know, I bought from Rotman like all the misrap 89 score football because I saw that there was I worked at ProSet in 1990. I knew the numbers, like, you know, 1989, 90, you know, late 89, early 90. I knew the numbers. Like, score was way tougher. I knew that. So when Rotman had miswraps and the stuff was starting to go up, I bought tons. I opened tons. I spec'd on tons. It's like, for me, it's always been trying to find places that are underappreciated, being a zigger while they zag, and to some extent, looking at out of favor areas and trying to find unique things in those out of favor areas. Now, what do I collect? Way less in cards than I do memorabilia. I mean, you look behind me, I have awesome memorabilia because to me, some of them I got in person, some of it was gifts, and some of it is just incredible stuff I bought. You know, I think the memorabilia is probably a little more up my alley. Incredible autograph stuff, awards, Oscar, you know, crazy stuff that's just one of a kind, unique things. But on the card front, like right now, I'm really getting a lot on Hunt Sports. I really am. And again, I see people in chat say things like, well, all these things are outdated. No one appreciates them anymore. Not even that. Like, I probably bought $50,000 worth of Top Trumps cards. These are cards that came out in England over the last 30 years. And they're relatively small production. But like, they have the first ever cards of Taylor Swift, Billie Eilish, you know, all these people that are like incredible pop culture phenomenon. And I bought up on eBay everything forever. And now it's starting to go up because people are like, hold on, where'd all these cards go? You know, Beyonce's first card. And so going to what you said earlier about how things appeal to certain groups, these pop culture icons, like Michael Jackson, or who, I mean, even though he's tainted, but like, these people are so much bigger than, you know, the Rangers winning the World Series. Like, I mean, that's nothing. That's like a P compared to Taylor Swift. That's a P compared to Bieber. A B, you know, these are little peanuts compared to anything meaningful, like worldwide. I mean, Ali is like, people like that were worldwide. But like in the modern era, a few NBA guys, a couple of baseball players, maybe. Soccer players are pretty much your best bet. But so to me, I just think this non-sport stuff is, I'm enjoying it because I think the market doesn't see any value there. And they're just wrong. I don't think you go by Leave It to Beaver, even though it was very rare from Pacific. You know, that was a very rare non-sport set. That's like one of the toughest. People,
man, Brian, I gotta tell you, I have respect for you. You're definitely doing your due diligence.
People don't even know how rare
Leave
Leave It to Beaver was. Pacific Leave It to Beaver was impossible. But the beauty is, I stay away from that. But like, I'm buying cards of Beyonce and Rihanna, and that's why I love Pop Century when I was at Leaf, because I could be that early. I was the first Kim Kardashian autograph. I'm the first autograph. You look how many people I had first autographs of. Joe Pesci, we had him to sign. I mean, that's unheard of. The guy won't even sign he won't sign anything. It's all secretarial, everything he's ever done. So like, we've done some amazing stuff there. And so I've always loved the category, but that's where I'm getting joy, like buying stuff for me right now, is I just see the non-sport thing as being so underappreciated. But, you know, I have fun watching you guys, like with Vintage Break stuff. And I just think it's cool to see someone still trying to, you know, do things in the marketplace to not just succumb to brand new shiny stuff. Yeah. It makes me happy because that's why we're here, right?
Yep.
Right on. All right. Good. No, good conversation, guys. I appreciate it. Leighton, you just had your 50th episode of your Trading Card Therapy podcast. I want to invite everybody to check out Leighton's podcast, Trading Card Therapy. Follow Leighton on Instagram, Leighton_Sheldon, _collect. Leighton, anything you'd like to let everybody know about before you head off? And I want to wish you a happy New Year, man. It's tomorrow's New Year's Eve, so hopefully you have something nice planned.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I really appreciate our journey this year, Jeremy. It's been a lot of fun. Some amazing guests, of course, including yourself, Bri. Really, it provides a great place to talk about the hobby. But, Bri, I don't candidly usually watch like the first 25 minutes of the show, but I kind of ran out of time. Jeremy's like, oh my God, late. You're not supposed to say that. But Bri, I was actually almost late for today's show because I was watching you talk to Jeremy. Really kudos to your retirement. And honestly, you sound like your self-awareness has gone way up. And, through that journey, you're going to find some things out like you were describing that are going to be awesome. You're going to find some things out through your journey that maybe aren't as awesome. But really, kudos to you in your retirement. And the one thing I want to address, because I was asking you about, what you love in the hobby. And for me personally, there's a lot of things I love in the hobby. I love what Bri was saying. I like zigging when everyone's zagging. I think that's cool. But man, ever since I was a little kid, and I went to like my first museum, like Museum of Natural History, I've always thought about my stuff, not so much like my inventory for my companies, but as my collection, as my own museum. And I get to be the curator of it. And my mother doesn't tell me what to do. Now, I'm grown up, so thankfully she stopped doing that. But my point is, Jeremy doesn't get to tell me what to do. The naysayers don't get to tell me what to do, Bri. And there is no right or wrong. And to me, that's one of the most joyous things about the hobby. And truth be told, I hope my son embraces it. But if he continues along like the gaming aspect of things, you bet your bottom dollar I'm going to support it. And so the point is, find your path and what you're passionate about. And I just think it's going to be a lot more fun, whether it be it's the hobby or some other place. So with that, I want to wish everyone a happy New Year. Thanks for having me, Jeremy.
Thanks. I just want to say, Leighton, you've given back. You did some nice giveaways on your podcast. You did a nice giveaway here on Sports Cards Live last Saturday. You gave away two $250 gift cards for your eBay store. Brian here is talking about, giving money to charity and a lot of it. I just want to say thank you guys for giving back and trying to, pay it forward a little bit. I think it's wonderful from both of you. But Leighton, happy New Year. It was a great year. We'll talk soon. We'll see you next Saturday. Have a great New Year's Eve.
Take it easy, guys.
Be good, Leighton. Happy New Year.
All right, Brian, we're going to pick up where we left off. Some more comments here. Diamond Dog says, respect to Leaf. I've always felt like the card quality and artwork was outstanding, lacking the licensing. Y'all definitely made up for it and really awesome looking cards. Spot on for the price too. There you go. Some nice feedback there. Good evening to the professor. I brought this one up earlier. We couldn't get to it. Cardboard Prophet says, let's get to the important stuff. Was the 23 Leaf inscriptions Peter Weber, Who Do You Think You Are? I Am card Brian's idea? That's one of the greatest cards ever made and one of my favorite PC cards. You want to speak to the Peter Weber card at all, Brian?
I wish I could take credit, but it's CJ Breen at Leaf. He came up with it. It's genius. I mean, again, and that's one of the things I'm most proud of, honestly, at Leaf was we built a team that was great guys, came out of nowhere. This guy had no card experience at all. We found a guy that was out of college but was ready to learn. And I hope I helped teach him some things about the card business, but he brought a pretty good sense of what's pop culture. He brought a good sense of that. And you see they've gone crazy with influencers because of what he knows. Yeah. But, it's pretty – I can't take credit. And again, I everyone likes to give me credit for everything, which I love, but it's not true. It's his idea completely.
Diamond Dog here says, heaven forbid anyone make money for their time and energy put into something. If people don't like they don't buy if people don't like it, they don't have to buy it. Collectors speak with the wallets. Yeah, no, definitely truth right there. Hobby Champs wants to know, how is Brian designing and producing cards on his own, and what branding are they being released under?
I haven't released anything yet on my own. The only things I've sold really have been like, you'll see like the Santa Claus cards. Those were old Leaf cards, that and the Brian Spielberg cards of me that are out there. I do have a brand that I've started the process with of doing what I'm going to do with it. I don't know what I'm going to do because things are changing briskly. The plan was to make repack items because, again, I will take credit as the father of the modern trading card repack. Not to say I invented all repacks, but the modern trading card repack that has become so dominant in the marketplace, like people like Backyard, I got them on another screen here at my house. That's all they have on the screen is repacks. There's not even a new box of cards on there. Every bit of it is repacks. And I went on Bleacher, every box was repacks. So like it's becoming an important part of the hobby. You know, I think I can do that now that I have no overhead. It's just me. I have no employees. I think I can do that in a phenomenal value-driven way, which is the way it should have been done all along. And when we were at Leaf, we did it as almost a nonprofit type item. We did not make money on that hardly because it just costs so much money to play that game. You have to put out so much cash to margins. If the margins aren't razor thin, people get a horrible experience. So like I plan on doing that, but then I also had a plan to make some new cards, just stuff I want to make, like some of the AI stuff. Maybe
Brian, I saw somebody on Twitter X say you weren't the inventor of the repack product. That's just your ego talking or something. What are they? What's the story there?
Who is the inventor of the modern repack? I want to hear when someone thinks that started, and then I'll tell you when it really started. What do you know? What do you know about repacks, Jeremy? Do you have any idea?
Honestly, I didn't know about them until
you had back in
Brian. Listen. The first memory I have is you coming up to my booth at the 2013 or 12 National in Cleveland and buying like a stack of cards from me, and I was like, "What are you doing with these?" And you told me you're gonna put them in a product, and I was like, "Oh, that sounds neat." I was just happy to get a big sale with you. That's already 10 years ago. So listen, I'm just telling you my experience, my recollection. That's my earliest memory of it. Maybe it started before. And then I know Upper Deck did a buybacks product, and they bought back O-Pee-Chee cards and put them into packs, but that was different. Those were hits. So that's what I remember.
So here's what I will tell you. If you want to say the first person to ever make a repack, no. You had companies like TriStar were packaging world's greatest card chase in the mid-2000s, where they took a bunch of junk cards, threw it in a box, and one box had a Wagner. And every other box was just a bunch of junk 88 Topps cards. So yes, people had put cards. There have been grab bags at shows for years, obviously. So people put cards in boxes. What I created in 2009, the first one was in 2009. For the historians, I don't just say this because I want to be famous. I want to be famous for doing something that some people think is a horrible thing in the hobby, but like Alfred Nobel, I'll take credit for it either way. Dynamite, is in 2009 Razor Rookie Retro was the first ever pure one card per pack repack item. We put out a checklist that was 25 pages long of every card that came in the box possible. We listed every card in every grade that was possible. And we came out with our first repack in 2009. So that was 14 years ago. So that was back before Leaf even came back in the marketplace in 2010. So I think the modern repack as we know it, one card per pack that has a value somewhere between $50 and $50,000. We brought that back at Razor in 2009. We created that. And again, it wasn't like we made it up. What we did is realized that people made grab bags at shows or people world greatest card chase or whatever. But like the modern repack is what I take credit for, which is making it a much higher stakes game, but more importantly than the gamble or the fun value proposition was that you could open a pack and get anything. You literally could have anything come out of it. And so in a world where it seems like products get kind of run, the problem is you get these same rookie cards over and over and over and over again all year long. Like by the end of the year, it's like, do I need any more Kenny Pickett rookie cards for real? Or pick your spot. I'm not picking on Panini in football. It's just any sport. The repack is so unique because it literally can be anything from any year. And the value proposition is just straight up better. Even the bad repacks where these guys are doubling their money, which is a horrible repack. The repacks that I'm building for Whatnot right now that will be coming out in January, the Fortune products, the average margin is between 11 and 14%. So I make 11 to 14% on a sell, depending on which price level. The higher price levels, it's 11%. The lower price levels is 14, 15%. Even at a 50%, which is like the guys that Dan the Card Man say are horrible ripoffs, or actually they've been worse, some of them. But But even at 50%, it yields better than most brand new products from Topps and Panini and Upper Deck. You open a box, you're usually going to get less than half your money back. Sometimes 10% of your money back.
You know, I was going to ask you what's the right way to do them, and I remember watching a video. I don't remember whose content it was. It might have been Dan the Cardman's, but was talking about. No, it wasn't. It was John Basketball Card Guy was talking about repacks, and he's on Instagram, and he said that we talk about a floor, a ceiling, and the average price, and the average price is usually dragged up by the big hit at it. If it's a 20-pack release, there's one card worth a lot of money and then a bunch worth less than the buy-in. And the comment was that, the average is going to always sound really good, but you have to actually go to the median, I believe is what he was saying, which is like the middle. If you take all the values of 20 packs in a 20-pack product, what's the middle value? And it was a lot lower than the average, the mean average, which was and I thought that made perfect sense. So I wanted to ask you, what is the right way to do these things? And is it in the domain that anybody can do it? There's been a lot of talk about these for the last couple of months now. And, who cares who invented them anymore? I mean, if you're the father of the modern one, awesome. That's wonderful. But now, as the father of the modern repack, looking down on it, are you happy with what you sort of helped create or helped birth? Are you happy that with the state of them now and how people are treating them and how they're rolling them out?
Yeah, no, I don't like the way it's gone because now it's just everyone and their grandma. If you can get an empty box or if you can get a bubble envelope, they'll slap a label on it and it's a product now. That's gone too far, I think in 2009, when we made the first modern repack, the modern hit-driven repack, we basically we made a checklist of every card that was possible in every grade. And so it became untenable because when you made print runs, and that was a small print run, it was 25 pages, the checklist. Because so many cards, there was only one in the whole product. And we made 1,000 boxes. Well, at the high point, Best of Basketball, we made 10,000 boxes of Best of Basketball at the high point. So the checklist literally could have been a 7,000 card checklist with all the different cards and grades. So I think it becomes untenable. So I don't think a checklist is unnecessary. The key is, who are you buying these repacks from? Mm-hmm. If you're buying from a guy in a garage, you're screwed. Not that they wouldn't be honest, but you just will never know.
Let me ask you this. I mean, what about Arena Club? Arena Club is a new company in the space. They've come out with a grading service, a marketplace, and now they're doing a repack. And I've seen some people, it seems to me like they've done it in a way that they're listing everything that's out there. There's a few different price points. I haven't researched it completely, but it seems to me like at least there's complete transparency with their repack product in terms of what are all the hits that are going to be eventually coming out of there. What are your thoughts on the way they've done it?
I mean, listen, I think the problem with I do like the fact there's a list and the percentages and stuff. I just think it's garbage, most of the cards. That's the problem I have with that one. I just think that company from start to finish is it's just ill-conceived. Grading too late. They got in the grading business too late, tied to a celebrity. I think the idea of it, because I wanted to do a website called Jackpot Breaks, where it was 15 cards around the perimeter, Press Your Luck. And it goes boop, 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 boop. It's stop. And it stops on the card you get. And then that becomes replaced with something else. That's pure gambling. I kind of...
Are you a little distracted, Brian?
Yeah, sorry. I just got a text from my mom. Can I take 1 second? I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, Mom. I got a text from my mom, and it's a personal thing. Give me 1 second. I'm so sorry. I never do this.
No, go ahead. Text your mom back. I'll run through some comments here, and when you're ready, come back to us. Tiger Jordan here says, I love BGO and JL. Thank you, Tiger Jordan. Happy New Year to you both. Hope you have a great 2024. Thank you for making my collecting experience more enjoyable. Tiger Jordan, thank you for your loyal viewership of Sports Cards Live. I'm grateful to you for that and everybody else as well. Dan Brown says the Pete Weber card was so cool. So was the Live Done, but the tweets last night were definitely to get attention. You're not paying Kelsey Swift anything intentionally. I think we covered that already. I don't think there was really.
I'd like to talk to that. Sorry, hopefully I won't be interrupted anymore.
Well, we can always come back to it.
I want to hit this real quick because
go ahead.
The idea, okay? Taylor Swift, I have offered a massive amount of money for her not to even sign an autograph and be on card. She turned it down. If you look, that's why this AI is an opportunity to make things happen that could never happen. First off, I don't know if you need rights to make cards anyway, but that's a legal issue we're not going to get into right now. But if you look at the picture closely, it technically isn't Kelsey or Swift. Take a look at them. If you really zoom in on the faces, they're just not, it's not them. It's not
that's a whole legal area, right?
It's not them. It looks like them, but again, it's some form of parody. And again, listen, if anyone thinks it's wrong, sue me. Guess what? In all these years and all these cards, I made cards of Ed Sheeran without him permission. I made cards of all these people. No one sues. You know why? Because they don't have any rights. They don't. These cards are periodicals. They have educational and news value. The case is Cartoons versus MLB. Read the case. The judge said if cards have educational and news value, that the key is, does that outweigh the publicity rights of an individual? And it does. That's why there's biography on the back. It's basically a miniaturized encyclopedia. That's what it is.
Okay.
And anyone who says cards aren't periodicals, I say, but yet you think the interweb, the internet is a periodical? You can't touch it. At least cards are made of paper, and people save them and archive them and read them for information they learn. That was the primary use of cards originally, was to learn things, to stats and players and details. So what I say is, obviously I've done deals with celebrities, I've done deals with thousands, so I'm happy to pay players. But if I can make something that's legal and cool to some people, maybe not Dan here, because Dan's got much more refined taste than the things I make, but how cool is that, right? Why not?
All right, let's keep on going. Diamond Dog said, anyone that's ever sold a card when the hype was high is also exploiting the market. Weird logic to have, in my opinion. We all got bills to pay. That's to an earlier comment. Here comes a tough question, Brian. Grotman Cards says, Brian, do you regret any cards you made with Lee? For example, autograph deals that helped line the pockets of criminals. If not, does a line exist that you think shouldn't be crossed on a card?
Yes. I think there are lines that shouldn't be crossed. Now, over the years, I have made cuts that was FDR and Hitler in a historical framework. I do not think a card of O.J. Simpson of him wearing a glove or having a bloody whatever, that would be inappropriate. Like celebrating a serial killer or celebrating a murderer in and of themselves because they're a murderer would not be okay with me. However, showing Andrew Garfield and Charles Guiteau, who was his assassin, on a card together, interesting. Lee Harvey Oswald and John F. Kennedy together, interesting. I think when you put things in historical perspective, I'm totally good with that. I think it's when we celebrate things that are disgusting on their own. Like if I had shown pictures of kids getting massacred in Palestine, that would be horrific and atrocious, and I should be drawn, quartered, and banned from the hobby for that. However, if I made a card that showed the courageous fight that the Ukrainians had put on against the Russians who were oppressive against them, then I don't think in a historical perspective that's an issue. I really don't. I don't have a problem with that. And again, this is the problem. It's like I made a card of Fire Festival, the guy who did the Fire Festival.
I think that's what this question is.
And then my answer is same with Tiger King, who's in jail. These were some of the most watched television shows of all time. Do you know how many people have watched that Fire Festival documentary? There and on Hulu, the different ones there are. Millions and millions and millions and millions and millions. Tiger King, during COVID, was the most important single piece of broadcast anywhere. When I say important, I'm talking about everyone in the world watched it. And if you didn't have Netflix, you got it just to watch it. So, to me, chronicling the things that are the fabric of who America is, good, bad, ugly, warts and all, I don't think you're wrong doing that. I just don't think you're wrong if you do that. I don't think you're wrong. Now, again, if we celebrate atrocious things, for example, we did a COVID card, which we did pull because people didn't like it. It wasn't really a COVID card. It was about the vaccine. When the vaccine came out, we made a card, an instant card celebrating the vaccine. It talks about the vaccine. That's all it says, but it had a picture of a COVID spore on it instead of a needle. Some people found that in bad taste. And while I don't think it was wrong, we pulled the card because people were dying of COVID. And it wasn't that we were saying, we were celebrating the fact that finally people may quit dying of this thing. It was horrible. But the misunderstanding, what can you do?
All right, let's
at some point you got to do whatever. So I don't think there's a line like that. We just got to try to use good taste, but let people collect what they want and don't collect what you don't want. It's that simple.
I think you've stated your case, and I appreciate that. Listen, you can respond. Let's how about this one here? Piece of the game. Always liked you, BG. I'm sure you killed it with the Leaf deal. However, it does not seem like the buyout was voluntary when listening to you speak. Either way, wish you the best. Family first. Anything about selling the company?
Yeah. We had 3 different suitors for the company, including one suitor that everybody knows, a very famous entity in the industry. And I took the easiest deal because, to me, a couple things, and just being honest. The first one is due diligence is a tricky thing. Without going into great detail, if you show competitors or people who have interest in other parts of the industry your books, they can get a lot of information and then not buy the company. And it can take months and months and months and years. It can take a year or 2 to get a deal closed. I think we can all agree that after 2022, if you were selling a business, it was time to sell it after 2022. That was the record year for manufacturers. Card values peaked in 21. Manufacturers made the most money ever in 22. That's when the money was made. So timing was critical. And I took the best deal I could get that had the fastest close with the best probability of success. And the money was more money than I can ever spend. I'm just being honest. I can live on the interest at a rate at a higher lifestyle than I've ever lived in my whole life and never touched the money. So it was a very nice deal. Now, I think what piece of the game refers to is when I say there are some people there that I'm probably not close with anymore. The reality is I'm not even bitter about it. I was at first a little bit because I was like, man, I thought everyone loved me because they loved me, not just because I was the boss or because I was whoever, but it doesn't matter. You know what? I don't love every person I've ever met either. Piece of the game. He actually, I don't think he really likes me that much. He used to like me. I think he quit liking me for something. But again, he's a good dude, and he had an incredible national booth. I loved his national booth a couple of years ago, last year, year before, 2 years before last. He had an incredible booth. But no, I just think at the end of the day, I don't really have any bitterness. I'm happy I got the money and all that stuff. The only thing I'm sad about is that I think I would have liked to have been like, when I announced I was selling it, I guess I thought people should throw me a party. It'd be like, thanks for all you did for the hobby or something. No one really gives a shit, and it's fine. But I felt like I should get some kind of a watch or something. Even though I sold, I should get a watch saying thanks for your many, many years of service. But maybe not. Maybe you don't get that. But I guess what? I look at the scoreboard. I came out okay, I think. I can go buy 100 watches. That's fine.
There you go. There you go. All right, let's keep on rolling. We got Vegas Puck in the chat. Chris Barr, Happy New Year to you.
Another super talented guy. This is the thing. Guys like him are why we were able to do something, because I don't know how he got away from Panini. This is a miracle. We built a team. Greg Cohn from Upper Deck. Chris from Panini. We built a great team. Kevin Girard from Panini. Jim Kohler from Donruss. We built an incredible team that other people just didn't see the value in. And man, what a great ad. Chris, great to see you here. You are one of the people I'm so thankful. And Chris is a great guy. We get along great. Yeah. And he's one of the guys I still stay in touch with. So I'm very happy that he's here.
I've known him since way before he worked at Leaf, before he worked at Panini, from the early 2000s.
You're lucky to have him, no doubt.
He's a hobby lifer. Yeah, good dude, no doubt about it. Diamond Dog says negativity is cheap and easy. Sad truth that the social media promotes clickbait sells. No clue what it's selling, but fools stay buying it. D Sup said, Brian, thank you for coming on, being open. Where do you see the hobby in 5, 10, and further years from now, Brian?
I think I'm a little concerned I mean, just being honest, I'm a little concerned that what's going on with some of the consolidation slash licensing things slash, I'm a little concerned about it. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, there's obviously a bunch of lawsuits. I think a new one was just filed yesterday, a class action suit by a consumer against Fanatics, the NFL, all the teams, everything, saying that it was an anti-competitive behavior designed to monopolize and raise prices in the football card category. And listen, I mean, I can't even argue. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. Very interesting case. I think it is actually a better argument than the Panini case even. But again, I'm not worrying about that. And again, unfortunately, I am considering opportunities that could have me on any side of the ball. So I guess I want to give an honest opinion without like beating anyone up, because I could end up on any team just as you never know, just for fun. But with that being said, that's my biggest concern. And that's one of the reasons I would consider doing light consulting for an existing company in the business, is to see if I can have a positive impact, either on an existing behemoth who's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, or a former behemoth that's going to redefine itself. And I think we'll be very successful in doing that. I could see myself helping a company like one of those. But I mean, I'm today I'm retired. But
all right,
January 1st is just 2 days away. You never know. But today I'm retired, and I'm never going to work full-time ever again. I can tell you that. Never again. I'll never work full-time again. If I work 15, 20 hours a week, that will be a lot. And I'll keep
on rolling. Ultimate pastime. Mark, my friend Mark Neiman says, great interview. Happy New Year to you. Mark, good to see you, buddy. As always, Collection SML. Brian did a great job with Leaf. Can't wait to see his future projects. Very nice. Michael Ham, how's it going, buddy? Says, BG, what was the biggest thing holding back innovation of card design? I love the reimagined and hope it continues, but I feel technology is not being explored due to cost. Can you speak to innovation in cards, Brian?
I mean, again, I think using AI tools to make things happen on cards that never happened in real life is pretty amazing. I think in terms of technology and product, I mean, what else can we do? Like, what else are we going to print cards on? Like we can only do so much from a technology standpoint. And it gets even worse when you consider the impact of grading and things like that. It actually gets much, much worse, because we can't really get crazy creative with what we print and manufacture, because if it doesn't grade 9s or 10s, people will think the product's horrible and worthless. So like, there's a lot of pieces moving here, but I think I love Reimagine. That was one of the things that I worked with one of the guys in the office on it. And so that's one of the items I think my staff wasn't really a big fan of. I don't think they liked it, which is the stuff I'm looking at now, the stuff I'm looking at doing. I think a lot of people just didn't like it internally. And I think the reason is because they were like, first off, sometimes it doesn't look as much like the players you want it to, because again, it's AI, it's going to do some stuff, so with that being said, it's, we can't really, I think there's only so much you can do from a technology standpoint. What I love about what Leaf is doing is like, Greg is so creative with like concepts and designs and themes. And like, that's where I think we have to continue getting crazy, is themes and things, because like Greg has done so good with like a day in history, and he did a dual autograph of like this classic showdown that people don't even remember. Like, and it takes an expert historian like him to really know these things and to be able to pinpoint it. But like, I think that's cool. And I think that's the thing. I think we need to keep pushing the envelope. I think there's a lot of reasons why we don't do different stuff. Because again, anytime we try something out of the box, like you see in chat, half the people think it's terrible, half the people think it's genius. So like, why would you do something polarizing when you know making a Chrome card works?
Yeah.
Making a Chrome card works. Showing pictures instead of crazy artwork generated by computers works. Why take chances? That's why I'm going to take chances if I do stuff. If I continue to go down this road of doing things myself, I'll do things that people don't have to buy them. They can say they hate them. Don't buy them. Thanks. I'll just keep them. Or you buy them out and then you're like, Brian's a genius. Super. Thanks. Nothing changes for me. It doesn't matter. Companies can't operate that way. They have to hit home runs consistently, or at least base hits consistently. If they don't hit 700, they're out of the league. I'm in a great position. If I bat 100, I can cut myself. I'm like the Jerry Jones of my own team. So I can bat 100 and I won't be out of the starting lineup.
All right, let's keep going. Ryan Hilberth says, BG, it's been awesome. It's been awesome working with Brian Gray and becoming friends. He has supported us to the next level for a decade. I appreciate your friendship and what's to come next. So obviously an employee of Leaf?
No. He was just he's a game use bat guy. He's a specialist in game use bats.
Okay.
I always try to like talk to people and help create a positive kind of like exchange with people, even if I didn't do business with them, because sometimes you can learn things from each other, or people would ask me for advice, and sometimes I'd ask for people for advice because I'm not perfect, you know.
All right, next up, Diamond Dog says, hey, don't forget to hit that like button for Jay Lee. Respect for the real questions, no layups. So far, this is a good chat. Thank you, Diamond Dog. Appreciate that. Goes on to say, if I was rich, I'd collect pinball machines. Attack from Mars is an all-time favorite. Yeah, pinball machines are cool. Mark from Ultimate Pastime just says, buy what you like, and that is trademarked, everybody. Buy what you like. Joe Perot says, Brian looks around corners. Happy holidays, everyone. That was in reference to your comment earlier, Brian, about trying to kind of outsmart people and know what's coming. Jeff Hart, good evening to you. Justin Bode wants to know, is Brian buying or investing in any hockey cards right now?
Absolutely not. Like right now, I am putting, and again,
how dare you, Brian? How
I know, big
dare you?
You're not going to like the rest of this answer any better than you're going to like that one. At this particular moment, I would be investing in, I am not buying any sports cards for myself. I don't think we're at the point where it's time to start pouring money in as an investment again right this minute. You can make money speculating short term, but like having a long-term vision, there will be a better entry point. But again, this comes from the guy that thinks the stock market is massively overpriced, that we're going to have a massive correction, 20, 30% at some point, that the crap's going to hit the fan still. I think we've dodged the crap hitting the fan with all this economic stuff. And if it gets worse, you know, then I think cards will also come down with it. I don't think we're going to retest 2017 numbers. But like, to me, why buy PSA 10 Jordans at 150,000? Like the card was 30,000 4 years ago. You got up to fake sales at 700, but really like 400, whatever. Like, I see no reason why that card can't be 75, 80, 70, 60,000. I'm not buying it anyway. But like 51 Bowman Mantles, I think they can come down 20, 30% from here. That's probably what I'd buy next. My next big buy in sports cards will probably be like a 51 Bowman Mantle high grade, because that's the real rookie card. And that's a classic card, underappreciated. It checks every box except that it's not 52 tops.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I love that card. Chris C here says, I'll avoid repacks. You never get a complete list of all cards or odds. I think that's something that's going to be rectified by the serious players in due course here. I feel like
I don't think they will. I don't think they will. And here's why. Because most repack cards out there, and I'm not speaking to mine or anyone else's in particular, but like most of them are living.
Well, that's the problem. I think that's the problem right there, is that they have to, I think for that to work, Brian, they have to all be sold and opened like at the same time.
Well, no, but here's the thing. They're not advertising a particular hit. What they do, like I'm watching Backyard. I was watching Backyard before I came on. And they basically had a product called Nebula or something. And like in every case, you're guaranteed the worst card is $500. But in every case, there's a hit that is guaranteed to be $3,000 to $10,000. They tell you that in every case. So it can be living if it delivers on its promise to have one card that's $3,000 to $10,000 and every other card's $500 or more. When it's not okay is when they say the floor is 20 and the ceiling or the floor is 200 and the ceiling's 4,000. They don't give you any indication of the average. They don't tell you how many packs are made. They tell you nothing. And they make that pack forever. Because then they really could be putting one $400 card in, or one $4,000 card in. Every other card be $200. And then once the $4,000 card get hits, they keep making $200 packs. Like that's a problem. That's when this thing doesn't work. But if you hold true to the idea that it's like a slot machine, the slot machine doesn't give you a full checklist of every potential payout. It may give you like all the different things you can hit, but like it doesn't tell you like in a bonus game, like when you play Cleopatra, where you get all these things and it plays all these crazy spins. You can win $3,842. It doesn't tell you you're going to hit $3,842 as one of the options. It just says that if you hit a bonus game, it can be anywhere from 100 credits to 100,000 credits. So like it's more, and again, I hate to keep giving gambling examples, but that's how if we're going to look at value, that becomes a big part of it. Otherwise, we'd look at the pictures and say, who cares what the return is? The cards are all pretty. We care about the value, right? We're spending money on it. So to me, I think the key with a living repack is that the value the customer gets is obvious when the customer sees 20, 30, 40 packs open or 200 packs open. Because again, like the repacks I'm making for Fortune, the worst yield is 30%. The worst card in a product is 30%. So an $888 repack, which I'm making, is a $300 floor. The ceiling is $12,000. That's what it is. Now I'm making a finite number of packs, but again, the problem is when you put out a checklist, to me, it takes away some of the mystery of what you can hit. The problem is there's so many unscrupulous people. Some of them probably need checklists. We found at Leaf, people love the mystery of it. And when you're dealing with a third party that's honest and trustworthy, that's different. And so we like to think that, like, when you bought a Leaf repack, the fact that we were a third party company, that makes a difference. It does make a difference. Versus on Whatnot, when you go find Joe's Card Shack, I hope there's no business name that, and he makes the Joe's Card Shack repack and he's opening it. He knows what's in every box he puts on the screen. Like, that's a problem. So, like, I think it's not as simple as like Dan the Cardman will pin it, but it's also definitely a place in the hobby where shadiness can absolutely happen. So much so that I've actually started compiling numbers from various repacks that I've seen on Whatnot and stuff. Like, I'm keeping track of the values of cards coming out of multiple different kinds of repacks so that someday when I do a breaking news story, I'm going to say, this repack that everyone's buying, I watched 1,335 packs. I've chronicled 1,335 packs, and here's what I found. They promised the floor was 200. 18% of cards were $120 or less. 42% of the cards came in this way, and so that's what's interesting. But, I think the repacks, I understand avoiding them, but honestly, go buy a high-end sports card product that's brand new release and try your luck. You're going to wish you had bought a repack, unfortunately. And I think repacks are critical to the card. Plus, it also recycles. There's so many benefits to the hobby. It creates liquidity that's insane.
Let's switch it up. Let's switch it up for a second. Something just popped into my mind. So Fanatics has recently partnered with Dude Perfect to reach a whole new demographic of possible hobbyists, collectors. I think their demographic are kids. And the criticism of that particular partnership that I've seen talked about in hobby content circles is that it is promoting gambling to kids, because group breaking is in essence a form of gambling. That's what I've heard. What are your thoughts, Brian? Group breaking? We're talking about repacks a lot as if it's the next group breaking kind of phenomenon. But group breaking is huge. There are platforms, you've mentioned them, that are in existence just to accommodate and facilitate group breaking in its various forms. Do you believe that group breaking is gambling, first of all? And number two, do you believe that by Fanatics partnering with this Dude Perfect social media group of people, that they are now promoting gambling to children?
I would say that conceptually, a trading card product conceptually today is more gambling than the process of doing it through group breaks. Now, it depends how you do this. I see group breaks as a timeshare. Like, it's basically a partnership buying a product. PYT is obviously the cleanest. The more wheels and things that come into play, like, there's a reason why, like, at the carnival, they have wheels and stuff. It becomes, the more carnival it becomes, the more carnival it is. So I think that's an issue that, is it gambling? I think there's probably an argument that it is legally, technically. But then again, I would argue that so many other things are also. The McDonald's Monopoly game, where they made you buy French fries to get these game pieces that could win this. That's thinly veiled gambling. There's bounties put on cards that are backed by people with interest in the business. Is that gambling? When you say someone will pay $500,000 for that Brady, that's probably subsidized or something by someone. you know? So it's like, I don't think we can worry about that. I think we have to be most concerned about like blatant gambling. Like pick a number 1 through 3, you get nothing unless you hit the number right. You know, like that's gambling. Like I think the minutia of it, someday there will be a lawsuit and someone will figure it out. Paul Lesko's been waiting for a decade for it to see if it'll ever happen. It may not. But I think at the end of the day, I like to think we've got a hobby here. It feels less like it than when I started back in 1988, 87. It felt like more of a hobby back then. It doesn't feel as much like that now. I try to convince myself that it's an investment. It's almost like an investment bank, but I know better. It's just one of those things. We have to realize that the products are too expensive. And again, this goes back to what I said earlier. The products are too expensive in many cases. You know, what's coming out doesn't yield the value because the single card demand is not as high as the wax demand. It's just a lot of pieces that are very hard. But with that being said, it's still an incredible business, hobby, whatever it is to you. It's still an incredible place. And I think you get entertainment out of it, which is why I ultimately am not going to come down on the gambling side because I think you're buying the entertainment. Any plus or minus in value is a sub benefit. I really think that to some extent, that's the case.
Yeah.
You can go buy a boat, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose your butt on that boat. The happiest days in a boat owner's life are the day they buy it and the day they sell it.
Yeah.
2 happiest days of their life. Is it gambling to see if you buy a boat and it goes up in value? Well, no, you got enjoyment out of it. We need to maybe think about this whole thing as an entertainment source. Are you going on these online breakers, Backyard or Bleacher or whoever, because you want to be entertained? Or are you doing it to pay the rent this month? Or are you doing it to hit the jackpot? For a lot of people, it really is just entertainment. And they can go to a club and watch people dance, or they can do this, or they can go watch a football game. But at the end of the day, you know, we live in a country where it's shocking that gambling is not even legal in every state. It's pretty shocking. You know, Texas will probably never have gambling. But it's just, that's become part of the culture. And I don't think cards are gambling in the sense that going on DraftKings is gambling now.
Yeah.
Or the lottery or horses or whatever. No, I don't think it's the same thing at all. I think you're more splitting. But I think the bigger issue is with cards generally, not group breakers.
Diamond Dog here. Look, Diamond Dog says spot on with that comment, Brian. It's entertainment, not investing. I think that applies to the opening of product aspect of the hobby. But there's so much more to this hobby than just repacks and group breaks and opening boxes at your LCS. There's that only speaks to the part of the hobby that has just come out, the most recent year worth of product. We've got 140 years of product to go back into. If anyone out there is not happy with the way the hobby is today, you know, how the manufacturers are doing it, how the distributors are doing it, how the LCSs, the breakers, the repackers, you can just go buy singles if you want. You can go to card shows, you can go to online marketplaces and just buy singles and still get your fix, I would think. Okay, Brian, I want to do a couple comments here. Brett S. from Adelaide, Australia. Welcome to the show. Lash Wine, good to see you, buddy. Rip and Wax, Chris in the house. Happy New Year to you. We got Rage in the house, everybody. Rage is in the house. Good evening, Rage. Diamond Dog is calling me the Howard Stern of the hobby. I'll take that, Diamond Dog. Thank you very much. Irving Monera in the house. What's going on, Irving?
Best mustache in the hobby, Monera. Best mustache in the hobby.
Irving, Joe Perot says the term liquidity has been brought up as of late. Does Mr. Gray have any thoughts on liquidity in the industry / hobby?
First off, there's a reason why if you look at nosebleed cards, like these cards Ken Golden was selling for the last 2 years, that's where the most pain is happening right now. Mm-hmm. Cards that are 100,000 plus are just getting their butt kicked because there's no support. This is why the people who say we can't have repacks, we shouldn't have repacks, shame on those words you're muttering. Because the reason those mid-range stuff's holding up way better than high-end. And the reason is because there's repackers. I just sold a deal today to a repacker, a well-known repacker. I just sold a very big chunk of cards at 100% of comps. They paid me 100% for a bunch. I spent the whole day today comping cards. I sold a deal at 100% because they need cards so desperately, and I have really good stuff. They were like, we'll pay 100% of comps for your stuff because you have incredible volume of good stuff. Like, you understand that liquidity
That's impossible anywhere else. 52 manos are not liquid at 100% of comps. Nothing is liquid at 100% of comps except these repack level cards. Like, they are critical to the liquidity question. Otherwise, if you're relying on true collectors only to provide liquidity for these ultra high-end boxes, you're out of your mind. It's just not going to happen. And so that's one reason why I would never buy at this stage a $50,000, $100,000 card. You're out of your mind. And when I do, it will be a 51 Bowman Mantle high grade, which is fine. But like, I think you are taking huge risk if you're buying Mahomes treasures or, whatever these crazy, Luka, Logo Man, whatever crazy ass cards that are going for 100, 200K, you're out of your mind. There is no liquidity at all for those cards right now.
All right. Minnesota Sports Card Junkie says, or spend your money on actual singles you want and not a chance at something in a repack. That's an option that I was just mentioning.
It is, but where are these cards going to come from if no one opens the boxes?
Well, he was talking about repacks, but listen, Brian, I don't crack a lot of wax, but I love that everybody does because that's where my singles come from. They make it onto online marketplaces, card shows, LCSs, and I can go buy them there. So as a collector who doesn't enjoy the return on opening product, I love that other people want to do that.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. You're looking for a different experience. Do you want to buy something you want? Awesome. Do you want to have the fun and the mystery of a pack without the potential pain of buying a $3,000 box where you get $88 worth of cards? There you go. And so I think you just have to decide what you want to do. That's why I think the repack has a viable place in giving collectors a chance to buy what it is they want to have that experience they want to have from opening boxes without the volatility. And trust me, 1/3, 2/3 downside, quadruple upside is not volatility compared to new products. I've watched new products that are $1,000 a box where literally $100 comes out. And I've seen some worse, no doubt.
KC Gold here says, Brian slings a lot of concepts around. He hits enough of them. That's an old comment. Chris C, exclusivity is not a good thing. Here's someone on Facebook makes this long comment. He says, people who build brands and checklists with websites and actual values that can be tracked, hits that are guaranteed, etc. It's all about transparency, branding, etc. Look at Arena Club crushing it. Mystery Pop for Funkos, all the slab repacks. If they tell you and it's fire, they are great. If it's skewed and possibly rigged, it's a problem. One big hit should not weigh the majority of the product value. I agree with that. And the new category for card entrepreneurs to come up with big, especially on live stream. So just more on the repack thing. Fat Armpits here said, hold on. The bounties are absolute gambling. Could see regulators coming after that. Diamond Dog says gambling is easy money. Vegas wasn't built by not winning. Random Esports says Brian is 100% right about the bounties. They're all shady. Les Hill says doesn't feel like a hobby to me anymore, to be honest. And then Diamond Dog here says, spot on with that comment, Brian. It's entertainment, not investing. Before you come on, Brian, the essential credentials wishes us both a happy new year. All right, Brian, please say what you were going to say.
One thing about Arena Club crushing it. I mean, again, that's a case where, and again, I'm not being mean, but they gave a bunch of influencers a bunch of either money or stuff to pump the shit out of that. They did. I don't know if they're crushing it or not. I can tell you, I looked at the list of cards. It's a bunch of dog shit. And because they own their own grading company, think about this. They literally are most probably, just a guess, buying raw cards and putting them in their own holders and putting them in repacks. Because a majority of the cards are actually Arena Club slabs. Now, I have a problem with that. I
can't speak to that.
Repack is just throwing cards in slabs that they're grading themselves. Like, hold on, that's getting a little more dicey on the ethical scale. Now, if it's all PSA, SGC, and all that stuff, that's different. But if you're telling me that they're buying an 82 Topps Ripken, put it in an Arena Club slab, and then putting it in these repacks under the auspice that an Arena Club 9 has a value of this, when they graded their own card they bought and are selling it to the consumer, if PSA did that, you would scorch their earth. If PSA made a repack out of cards they bought themselves on the market and slabbed, it's not like Arena Club went out and bought those cards off eBay, like the cards already slabbed. They bought raw cards and slabbed them, and now they're putting them in products. They're basically retailing the cards they graded themselves.
Sure, but let me ask you this though, because I see that conflict. I can definitely see that that's a conflict of interest. However, as time goes by and the hobby absorbs those cards and looks at them and asks the question, is the grading appropriate? Does the grading fall within industry grading standards? And I mean, we know how inconsistent grading is, but
that's another problem.
I know, but that's a different conversation. But is it that bad if they're grading if they're grading the cards objectively, despite the fact that the conflict of interest exists? It's another thing if they are exploiting that conflict of interest to their benefit. But if the hobby recognizes and accepts that those cards in their slabs are graded fairly, then what's the damage?
If you could put up a poll right now, how many people in this room have sent Arena Club a card to grade? It would look like Vladimir Putin is running against Mother Teresa for kindest human ever to walk the earth. Like, I mean, you realize how lopsided a poll that would be. No one grades with them. No one grades there. It's a way to salvage a busted grading business.
Well, I think their business is as much a new marketplace as a grading company. I think their showcases and all that. That was my understanding, but
I don't think it's caught. And I think there are companies with much better concepts that are really having to work hard to make inroads into this marketplace. I'm just not buying. I'm just not buying into the idea. I just think this is where, again, when I see someone spend a bunch of money trying to get influencers and people like that on board to promote and hype stuff, it's very clear to me. That's what happened with the Fire Festival. They gave all these influencers a bunch of money to go out and tweet about how great it was. That's what happened in one day. Suddenly, all these people were talking about how great it was. All in one day. And did they really all get it on one day? I would like to know what they got. If Arena Club will come out and tell what all these influencers got in terms of either free cards, free product, money, whatever, I would definitely retract my concerns about what they're doing. It's a hype job. And if you spend enough on Facebook advertising, you'll sell stuff. If you spend enough on influencer, trust me, I can call every one of these influencers and get them to say that BG is the greatest whatever ever, and whatever I'm making is the best thing since sliced bread by paying them off for giving them something. Hell, when I own Leaf, people were offered bribes all the time to try to get things out of Leaf, and I just told them I own the company. You were asking the wrong guy. You're not going to be able to bribe the guy that owns the company. What's wrong with you? But the reality is, and again, I still see people in comments, they make comments about repacks. Repacks are not designed for you to win anymore. But if you think new products are designed for you to win, how are you going to win when 30% of the money goes to the leagues and the players? How are you going to win when Wembanyama gets $25 million from Fanatics? How are you going to win? How are you going to win? And that's the problem is it's not about any of that stuff. The current model for cards is a little bit damaged and needs to be repaired. And this is why I love Leaf and companies like it, because they're not stuck in this race to try to pay licensing and all the things that just kill the value, that kill your return, that make it impossible for you to be in the game very long before you run out of money.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, money matters. You can't buy product without money.
Listen, I want to just take a second and just welcome everybody who is watching. We have a great viewership tonight. So thanks everybody for joining. Thanks, Brian, for coming on and bringing your audience, Brian. And so if you're new to the channel, to Sports Cards Live, to my show, my podcast, please hit subscribe. Sign up for the podcast on wherever you consume your podcast. We're also streaming live right now to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. So to everybody watching on Instagram, I just can't communicate with you. If you want to come in the chat, you got to come onto YouTube and watch. But welcome everybody to the show. And, here we are the night before New Year's Eve. Happy New Year to everybody. I'm going to go to a couple comments here. Brian, Minnesota Sports Card Junkie says you can make the hobby fit your style versus conforming to what the majority thinks the hobby is. I love that comment.
Right.
Collect what you like my friend Mark Neiman, Ultimate Pastime, says. Great comment, Minnesota Sports Card Junkie. Steve Elmore says, Happy New Year and hello. The Great Curator says, Brian, how do we change the general hobby mindset that player cards not made by the top 3 manufacturers are not as desirable or worth as much as Topps, Panini and Upper Deck cards.
Well, you guys are buying Wembanyama autographs from Panini, from Fanatics for a bunch of money, and they're not licensed. They got no logos or anything on them. You're buying unlicensed cards. You are buying. I mean, that's the thing. It's at the end of the day, people, they don't apply a consistent argument across the board. A lot of stuff out there that you guys love is not licensed. And again, the ones I always bring up because it makes me laugh is 76 tops Walter Payton, 81 tops Joe Montana. They have no licensing. Montana's helmet is airbrushed on his rookie card, for God's sake. Like, does that not give you some pause that maybe we've been brainwashed by these guys who have a lot of money invested in making sure that the licensing, whatever. I mean, and again, maybe I'm killing my chance to consult for a company with licenses, but I'm just calling it like I see it. You know, at the end of the day, people draw this box and they want you to think within this little box. They ask a question or define something in this little range because they want your answer to fit in their box because they know what kind of answer can you give when they put you in a box. I always taught my kids, and I did this when I was deposed in a lawsuit where I sued a manufacturer for unfair competition. Their lawyer kept asking me questions, and he would say, given this, and this, how do you explain this? And I said, well, first off, I'm not answering that question. You can ask it again, or I'll ask the question. He goes, no, I asked you a question. Answer it. I said, okay, fine. I'm going to answer the following question. And I restated his question within fair parameters so that it allowed me to answer outside of this narrow answer he was trying to force me to give. And he got so mad at me, he turned red in the face. And every time he asked a question, I'd restate the question with changes because I wasn't going to answer a biased question, a question designed to trip me up or cause a problem where there isn't one. And I think we have the same problem in the hobby. We've been told that unlicensed bad. It's like orange guy bad. If you don't like Donald Trump, orange guy bad. I don't like him, but it doesn't matter. We just try to convince people this. And the fact at the end of the day, people have to make the decision. And I believe if you look at like metal football, people accept those cards in a way different way than they've ever accepted unlicensed before. They really have. And so to me, we started to break that barrier a little bit. But again, whose interest is it to tell whose best interest is it in to tell you that unlicensed is bad? Right? The guys who have the licenses, where the big money is, the leagues and the players. Buy what you like. And I'm telling you, long term, someday, I would much rather have an ultra low produced autograph card of Ohtani than a mass produced run of the mill autograph card of Ohtani where there's 50,000 times the number of copies, or Pickett. You know, it's just not. I'm just telling you.
All right.
We're looking at a 10-year time frame here where unlicensed has been meaningful. Only for the last 10 years has unlicensed really given license to run for its money in any way, shape, or form. If you're going to say that the future of the hobby is defined by this little 10-year period, think about in the 1980s if I had told you that Upper Deck would come out with cards with holograms on the back, or that players would sign cards and put them in packs. You'd have thought I was off my rocker. But the fact is, the hobby is going to continue to evolve, and what seems unthinkable today can absolutely be thinkable tomorrow. And some of the greatest treasures are things that were not basketball cards. In 1987, that was crap. You couldn't get rid of Star Company basketball cards. You couldn't get rid of them. They're worthless. And then in 1992, they're worth 100 times what they were in 1987. So, like, things are going to change, especially when they're done with the quality that Leaf does it, as an example, or the quality that Topps does it with Bowman U and those things where they don't have logos on the uniforms in many cases. They make a nice quality card. Or Panini with flawless baseball. When a card is made with high quality, I think I can get past the pajamas a little bit. I get a little more interested in the concepts, the assets, whether it's real game used like Leaf uses, or on-card autographs, which Leaf uses less of, or autographs, which Leaf uses plenty of. You know, I look at those elements, and I think they're more important than people are giving credit. The jersey's overrated. And as a side note, I don't think the companies need a license to use the jersey. I believe they can show a player in a jersey with if they're willing to take a $3 million, $5 million lawsuit.
I've heard you say that.
They don't need that.
All right, let's couple more comments. Michael Ham says, I feel the hobby is just recycling the same stuff that's not even as good as the late 90s and early 2000s, especially inserts, to which Rage says, bingo, Mike Ham, ding, ding, ding. What are your thoughts on that, Brian?
I mean, I think insert cards, I think some of the technology in the 90s is way better than some of the stuff we do now. I mean, you have to say so. There's some of those 90s inserts are amazing. SP Hollow Views, how awesome were those? You know, the Upper Deck Hollow Views with the hologram, amazing. And what's amazing is, as a manufacturer, we can't make a lot of that stuff. I've been working for the last 5 years to try to make something that looked and felt like the original PMGs. Not a steal their design, but just something that had that same kind of texture and like just the feel of it. Because the new ones they're not like the old ones. They're a cheap knockoff of the old ones. The new PMGs are not like the original PMGs. And we could not, for the life of us, in 5 years, replicate the look and feel. We just couldn't do it. So I think in that sense, he's right. Now, the way autographs and relics and things are used now is different level. Again, I think cards today are so much more creative than the past. It's amazing.
Mike Robo found out tonight that the 1981 Joe Montana was unlicensed by the NFL, not the PA, but just the NFL. What was the alternative? There was no alternative. That is his one and only rookie card. Same with Walter Payton.
Can you go to one message before that where the guy that doesn't like me keeps commenting?
Taylor Swift don't need your money, Brian. Are you crazy? I can't believe what I'm hearing. He's he's behind in the show right now. Keep in mind.
No. He's been ragging on me the last 5 things. So I'd like to address him real quick.
Sure.
So basically, let me give you a rundown. Harrison Ford, Britney Spears, the Kardashians, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino. I mean, we got a pretty good list of people that are worth a lot of money. Mark Cuban's worth much more than Taylor Swift. He signed for me. So I think at the end of the day, I think that logic is poor. We definitely want to get great celebrities to sign. The thing is, Taylor Swift, if we actually talked to Taylor Swift, she would give Leaf the rights. She would give Leaf the rights to make cards of her if we could speak to Taylor Swift. The problem is when you call her agent says, is the deal $50 million or more? And you're like, well, no. And they won't even take it to her. See, my pitch to so many celebrities I got, which again, Rage, who's going to make more comments saying that I promote pedophiles, which is about the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I would say to someone like that, how do you think I got Jennifer Lopez to sign? How do you think I got these guys to sign? Because half of them, I told them, do you want consumers to get ripped off on fake autographs on eBay they're buying? Or do you want to give people something real to buy? Give them something real to collect. And that's the argument I'm trying to get Madonna. I'm trying to make the argument that a real autograph has value. Now, again, this is the last time I'm going to address Rage because he's obviously a lunatic. I put a pedophile murderer on a card in Tiger King. What the F are you talking about?
Let's move past it. I don't want to.
I have to be honest. The only reason I say this is generally, I would say this just for his ability to reason with people. When you present an opinion, if you do so in a way that is balanced, educated, and not clearly one-sided, then I think you make a better argument that more people will listen to and say, you know what? This is someone who's really trying to reason and ration if something's over the line. Like if that gentleman and again, I say this because if we're going to call companies and yell at them and say they do this wrong, we never say the companies are great. Redemption sucks. This sucks. Customer service sucks. Everything sucks. But instead of yelling at them, if we said, listen, have you thought about the concept of doing this? Because as a consumer, it's very frustrating to see this. I promise you, whenever someone sent me an email like that, I took the time to answer every single one of them. That's it. I answered every email. But when a guy said, you're an ice hole, you're this, you're this, you're this, you're this. And I was like, I don't listen to stuff like that. So what I would urge people to do is be critical and hold card companies accountable. Hold everyone in the business accountable, whoever it is. But you're going to catch way more flies with honey, and you're going to get the ears of the people that matter when you do it the right way. And at the end of the day, we make what we think people want. If you don't like it, don't buy it. If you like it, buy it. I don't make anything right now, so I don't know what we're talking about. But when I was at Leaf, we made things we thought people wanted, and people voted with their wallet. And when I was wrong, they didn't buy them. And when I was right, they bought the hell out of them.
Okay, new topic. David Cook wants to know, Brian, what is the future of live auctions with eBay pushing them now? Can they compete with Whatnot?
No one's competing with Whatnot right now. And the main thing is Whatnot has a customer that is addicted to their platform, can't get off of it. Everyone deletes the app 50 times and comes right back. You know, at the end of the day, I think eBay has the customer base to compete. Their software is clunky, and there's issues with that right now. But I think the live selling platform is a big issue now. I think it's a big issue for retailers. It's a big issue for everybody. It's going to be like what breaking was. Like 10 years ago, most stores said, I'll never break. Well, the smart ones have started breaking stuff because they realize that's a piece of the puzzle.
Yep.
In many countries around the world, online selling, live selling is a critical avenue for selling stuff.
Let's keep going. Sean Red says the hobby went from collecting to investing to gambling. Greg Cohn says, what should the return on buying a product be? The industry is unique in the fact that there are too many levels of profit expected between licensors, manufacturers, brick and mortar, breakers, and collectors. And I think that's one of the...
That is so profound. I love that son of a bitch. He's so smart. That is an issue. There's so many pieces in the middle. And that's why, like it or not, Fanatics doesn't... I can see Fanatics focusing on consumers directly long-term.
Yeah.
Because if they can cut out all these people in the middle, the customer actually could end up getting better value than they get now. If Fanatics doesn't keep all that for themselves, they really could become, and they have the infrastructure to do it, to really make it a much more efficient marketplace. And again, I love all these. I did all these things. I wasn't a licensor, but I was a manufacturer. I had a brick and mortar. I've done everything. I had stores. I've done everything in the food chain. So I appreciate the fact that so many people are allowed to make money, but it may not always be that way.
Yeah.
It can change. Just like vacuum cleaner stores are gone. You don't buy from vacuum cleaner stores anymore. You buy a vacuum on Amazon or Sears or wherever.
Yep. Footy Cards from Australia. Welcome to the show. Deep Value Investor says, love Brian and his authenticity. He's not scared to share his ideas and strategies. Triple V was looking forward to the discussion, was not disappointed. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you as well. Mike Nanya says, licensed or nothing. Fair position.
And guess what?
Yeah.
You can go complain about the value. When you take that attitude and you don't hold any manufacturer to the fire and say, I have another alternative, and the leagues aren't going to help you do that. The leagues are going to be exclusive forever. They will never not be exclusive again. Never. So unless you're going to just say, yes, let me suck the teat and do whatever it is you want me to do, and I'll just be desperately following you around and you call the shots, Fanatics or Panini or whoever, Upper Deck and hockey. If you ever want to have any leverage, it's got to be because you create an alternative. And you say, and then granted, the alternative could be, I'm not going to buy cards anymore. That's a viable alternative too. But if you're insistent on collecting and being part of this community, as soon as you say, you know what? You don't own me. I can do all these other things. That changes everything. So when you say license or nothing, you're never going to have two companies making licensed ever again. Ever. If that's the world you want to live in and you want to be stuck with one person, whatever they tell you, you say, yes, daddy, can I have another? Man, that's not a good place to be. I pity if that's where you're going to sit. I would say I much prefer license. And I hope they don't abuse me, because if they do, I might change my position. And they might abuse you, and you might change your position.
Rip and Wax says, Brian shares some very good points. Thought out the live. Great show. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. All right, here, I want to do that. Bobby Baseball says, Brian, if you had one key piece of advice for Fanatics, what would it be? And then I'll add, are you willing to give it away to them for free right here, right now?
I mean, without talking about any conversations I may or may not have had with them, I'll tell you this. They've got a chance to do something groundbreaking. I don't think they've executed as well as they could so far. I think they're missing pieces of the puzzle. I think my biggest advice would be don't harm consumers, because they've got a big lawsuit on their hands from Panini. And while I think Panini has a real good chance of winning, the one lawsuit Fanatics will not win is a consumer class action that's got some meat behind it, because then it's not two businesses fighting over stuff. It's consumers being harmed. And anytime we've had big industry issues with monopolies becoming illegal, monopolies can be legal, but they can also be illegal. I think most of the time it comes down to consumer harm. When consumers are harmed, oh shit. When two competitors beat each other up, you can still lose that. But consumers, juries, and judges are much, much more concerned about consumers. So my thing with Fanatics is you better win the customers over. And that needs to be unparalleled customer service, wild creativity. Honestly, and again, maybe they're in the process of hiring a couple of people who are seen in the hobby as advocates for the consumer. And if they do that, that would be pretty powerful. I think having a chief hobby officer that was like a face for the hobby to say, Fanatics is not the bad guy. Someone who's trusted as being a no-nonsense, no BS kind of guy or girl. That could be in the process. We don't know what their master plan is. But I would say don't harm. If you harm consumers, this thing's going to blow up for sure. And we could lose the industry. That's the number one thing that could ruin the industry would be harming consumers here.
All right. Tom Newman says, Brian Gray, you are a goat. The Card Fanatic says, I like those super CEO cards. I dig BG. I don't care who says what. He airs it out like Barkley. You know where you stand. Bobby Burrell here says, card technology and design is at a critical mass. Brian talks concepts. That is forward thinking for the future of the industry. Very nice. Very nice. Here, Brian, Simon466 says, won't Fanatics Live choke off all supply to whatnot once they get all the licenses?
Two parts. Number one, that's how you lose an antitrust case. So you won't see that. Number two, go look at Backyard Breaks and Bleacher and Swish. It's all repacks. I'm watching I got a screen right next to me, and it's all repacks. On this screen right here, it's all nebulas and kryptonites, and it's the whole break is repacks. Every break all night is repacks. They've already prepared for the world without Fanatics. And guess what? If you're a brick and mortar, you better prepare too. And if you're a distributor, you damn sure better prepare. There's more people that are going to be out of the food chain pretty soon. So this is going to change. If you're relying on Fanatics for your living, you could be screwed. Kind of like if you're here. I mean, you're a redneck if you rely on Fanatics for your supply.
Columbia Sports Card says right here, Fanatics will easily keep it for themselves. They aren't looking to drop prices. What do you think of that? Do you think that,
that's like saying Brian lost 50 pounds, but he's going to put 25 back on. Well, I did lose the 50 pounds, but how do you know I'm going to put 25 back on? We don't know they're going to keep it for themselves. Most people tend to be greedy and want to, but doesn't mean they will. I think it's a little premature to say they're going to keep it for themselves. They could. I think if you change the word will to could, Fanatics could keep it for themselves. They may not be looking to drop prices. That would be a statement I could get behind because they really could. I like to think they have a desire to see this business grow and not go to shit.
Yeah, I hope so.
And again, I will do anything I can as a retired individual to help see the hobby in a good place, whether it's Fanatics make great choices or Panini figure out what the world looks like afterward, or who knows, maybe I'll end up working for a grading company or something. Who knows? But whatever I'm going to do in this business for fun, which will be the 20 hours a week, it's going to be to see it be a better place. And I hope that I can help people like Fanatics, Panini, whoever, Wildcard Leaf, Sage, whoever wants to hear what I have to say. I hope I can help make the hobby a better place, whatever.
Card Fanatic says, great show. Always great show, guys. Thank you, Card Fanatics. And Brett, nice comment. No matter the guest, I always learn on your streams. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Brett. Appreciate that. Ultimate Victory says, is vintage going to die when boomers die? What are your thoughts on that, Brian?
Well, we don't say cards or stocks. If I had a sell rating, it would be on vintage that is not the top 7 players. If I were buying vintage right now, even though I know some vintage is really cool because it's rare, I would 100% be only comfortable owning Mantle, Aaron, Mays, Koufax, DiMaggio, Ruth, Ty Cobb, maybe Cy Young. I don't go much further. There's no world under which I would own Al Kaline. And then it gets worse. You look at T cards, Rube Marquard. You can't watch these people play on. There's no film of them playing. There's no film of them playing. Jackie Robinson, I saw someone mention, Jackie Robinson for sure. But like Clemente, I say Clemente's in that group. But like I don't put, I'm trying to think of some Reggie.
Like Orlando Cepeda or Ralph Kiner.
I think we're at a point where 30 or 40 years from now, Reggie Jackson, no one's going to give a flying F about him.
But he was in the Naked Gun.
That's his best thing. But you already see people forgetting about Yount and Brett. And like I sold a huge deal today to a repacker. And the only stuff they didn't take out of my whole deal was like George Brett rookies, Molitor Trammels, Ricky Henderson rookies. That's the only thing they wouldn't buy. I do want to hit Scott Mescal. He's asked the same question 12 times. I would like to answer him if we can. How am I anti-exclusive deals, but I signed Lillard and Eichel exclusive? Can I answer that one?
Yeah, please.
Okay, I answer it because he's asked it 12 times, and the man deserves an answer.
I haven't. So I have to apologize. That's the first time I've seen that question.
No holds barred. So, like, I don't hold back. I'll tell you how it is. Okay, here's the deal. We'll start with Lillard. In 2012, when Panini found out I was making basketball, they started signing every player exclusive. Every player. Not just one or two players like Wembanyama. They signed everybody. So first we started with Anthony Davis. I offered $500,000 for Anthony Davis, which at the time was unheard of. Panini offered the same price, but they had a girl that was friends with him somehow and got him to sign with them. Then, who was the number 2 or 3 pick was a garbage guy. 3 names, I forget his name. He's not even worth anything. I offered him $400,000. He passed. He took Panini's deal. So, like, Panini signed literally 10 of the top 12 players exclusive. So I had already committed to buy a bunch of basketball players. So what did I do? I found one guy that Panini would not pay. They offered Damian Lillard $10 an autograph. I knew he was good. First off, you don't see kids from schools like that getting drafted in the top 10 unless there's something special. They just don't. I knew he was good. And so I took a shot and I offered him $25 for an exclusive. It wasn't that I thought exclusives were good. In fact, I only signed Lillard because Panini signed everyone exclusive. I had to have someone to go with Jeremy Lamb and Draymond Green, who turned out okay, but he was one of the guys that wasn't exclusive for anybody. There were a few good guys, Kendall Marshall, whoever they were from North Carolina. But, like, we had to sign someone, right? So that's why we signed him. We didn't sign him because we wanted exclusives. I hate exclusives. It was the only way we could try to compete. Jack Eichel is an even better story. Upper Deck, locked up, Connor McDavid. We tried to do a deal, no interest. He'd win an Upper Deck deal. So then I got Eichel. And Eichel said, Brian, I'll do your deal because I told Eichel, I'm going to make you my guy. You're always going to be second to Connor McDavid for Upper Deck, but you're going to be my guy. And he did the deal with us. So then, to show you how little I am concerned about exclusives, I went to Upper Deck. And I said, Upper Deck, I want to sell you Jack Eichel autographs, and I want you to sell me some Connor McDavids. Let's share these things and give collectors a choice. And the answer was not only no, but Brian, how dare you sign Eichel? You're not allowed to sign exclusives because you don't have a license. And I said, are you kidding me? Hold on. You're telling me that shame on me for signing an exclusive, but it's cool that you sign one because you have the license. But the point was, our goal was not to sign a player so Upper Deck couldn't have him. Our goal was to make sure that we got to bring our collectors, Connor and Eichel. And if we didn't get to bring them Connor, they didn't get to bring him Eichel. But it was really just to create a check and balance and to show them that we're not messing around. And it didn't work the next year because the players ended up sucking. But we took Nico Hischier and Nolan Patrick, picks 1 and 2 when exclusive with Leaf, and did not do Upper Deck. That was more about showing Upper Deck that you can't be a bully and come sign every player and think that we're going to just roll over and let you kick us around like a piece of garbage. We're standing up for ourselves. Even then, I offered to work something out with them to try to be friendly. And you just can't be friendly with people who don't want to be friendly. So,
well, here.
That's reality. But again, I don't believe that. I don't
here,
believe
Brian.
players.
Same guy. Same. He says here, taking players away from licensed card companies is absurd. I don't blame Upper Deck. Jeremy,
I mean, again, I'm just looking at this from a logical perspective. Let me think of a great way.
And I'm just letting you talk. I could speak to this too, but I'm letting you do it.
Well, I know as a purist, you like seeing the play. Well, listen, they had cards in Upper Deck. They just didn't have autographs. So here's what I'll tell you. Are you prepared to boycott?
Brian, let me just hold on. As a collector, yeah, I don't like it. But as a realist, being pragmatic, I understand why you did it.
How about this?
I didn't hold it against you.
If you believe that what we did was horrible, then I think you should do a couple of things. Number one, you must boycott Fanatics tomorrow. They not only stole Wembanyama from Panini, they also signed Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, and Will Levis exclusive away from Panini. You should boycott them right now. Then you need to go boycott Upper Deck because they stole Ben Simmons from Panini and took a licensed player away. And then you have to boycott Panini because they just signed a Dylan Cruz exclusive or whatever it is. My point is, it's happening. And sometimes it's even predatory when these companies are doing it. Now, it was never predatory with us. The gist is, when there's no competition in the marketplace, sometimes this is the only way we can have competition. And you can say, see, the problem is Scott is probably he hates pajama cards. He wants a licensed only product. And so what I say is, yes, if you want to succumb to whatever they tell you, and look what's happened. If you go look at Upper Deck hockey cards, and I'm not being mean, how many great veteran autographs are you pulling out of Upper Deck hockey these days? Out of the average product, not cup, but average product. 98% of your autographs are rookies because they're cheap. That's what happens when you have an exclusive with no competition. That's what happens. And I'm just
hold on. Phil Dog just put in you forgot to mention Upper Deck stealing Jordan and LeBron, but didn't they have them before?
I think LeBron is now.
But didn't Upper Deck have them before Panini even came into the market?
Yes, but they didn't have to keep stealing. They could have sold Panini autographs. If what we want to do is really make sure collectors get the licensed card of whoever, total bullshit. The reality is, yes, collectors, we care about you. I care about you. But at the end of the day, 99% of people in this business, it's a business. Fanatics, Panini, Leaf, Sage, Wildcard, Superglow, Rittenhouse, Kekwow, Magic, any of these things, Pokemon, it's all a business. You, my friends, are a necessary collateral concern because you're the customer. They have to keep you in mind a little bit, but it's a business at the end of the day.
Yeah, I listen to me, Brian. I say it like this. People are saying it's not a hobby anymore. It's not a hobby if you decide for it not to be a hobby for you. Personally, it's my hobby still, but I also understand that it's my hobby within an industry, and it is capitalism, and there are profit-oriented companies. Almost exclusively every company in the space is profit-oriented. So if you don't like that and you can't find a way for yourself to have your hobby within this industry, then you got to ask yourself, what are you doing here?
Yeah, I'm in the wrong place. We got to take two more of these I'm reading because I love some of these comments.
Okay, which one do you want to do?
He asked about Ari Lehman in Pop Century, the guy that played Jason.
Who wrote the question?
Dropping cards at 11:02. Can Brian speak at all to what happened with Ari Lehman's autographs? Would love to hear what happened from his perspective.
I don't see it.
Dropping cards at 11:02. So basically, Ari Lehman played Jason in the Friday the 13th movies. He was in Pop Century. He signed stickers. He signed them at the Orlando card show that was a total bomb where Acuna and him signed. I think Acuna was that show and Wander was that show. Poor Wander, rest in peace, his career. But yeah, so Acuna, Wander, Ari Lehman, a bunch of guys were there. It was a bomb show, but he signed stickers for us at that show. So then he saw his cards come out in Pop Century, and he was like, I didn't sign those cards. It's like, no shit, you signed stickers. But the guy immediately came out and said they were forgeries before asking. Well, you may have noticed he's backed down completely since because he signed a sworn affidavit from us. He signed the stickers, and he got paid. So again, a lot of times there's confusion. We had that happen with who was it before that one of the wrestling people said, I never signed those cards. And I was like, hey, Buff Bagwell, whoever it was, you signed the stickers. He was like, oh, I didn't realize those were stickers on the cards. I was about to say, I never saw that card before. How could I have signed it? So, it's stuff like that. But yeah, 100% he signed him. That's why you saw him back down. We got to take the next one by Ankesh too. I love this one too. This caring for customers PR shtick is BS. The one right after that. I love this. What a great comment. Number one, This is why Big Brian No Holds Barred is so awesome. I don't give a shit what you think of caring for customers. It's not PR shtick. I don't owe you anything. I owed you stuff like 4 months ago when I owned Leaf. I owe you nothing now. When I say that we need to care about customers, it's because I'm a freaking customer. You get that? I'm a customer, just like you. And you may not want to stand up and say we need to be cared about, but I'm telling you, people should care about you. You should not just be a number on a spreadsheet, and that's all you are about 3/4 of the time. And there are good people at companies who do care about the consumer. I have friends at Panini that I know actually care about the consumer. I'm talking about the companies. So I wouldn't say it's PR shtick. When I owned Leaf, that would have been a better criticism because you would expect me to say that, although I really did care about the customer. That would have been a better time to make such a statement. Today, I would say the BS is acting like I care. I really should not care about any of this. I can tell all you guys look at the scoreboard. But the reality is, as a customer, I demand manufacturers care about me, and that includes the one I used to own. I buy Leaf products. They do a good job. If they ever don't do a good job and they do me dirty, I'm going to expect them to make it right the same way I'd tell Panini, Topps, Upper Deck to make me right. So, like, it's not BS. It's the reality. And now I get to say it, and you can't question me the way you could have 4 months ago. 4 months ago, you could have said, oh, he has to say that. He owns a company. Of course it's BS. Guess what? I don't own a company now. I'm saying it because you should care enough about yourself to demand people care about you. Next.
Okay, let's go on. Good stuff. Louis here says, we all collected cards as kids and loved the heck out of it. But now that we're all grown up, I think we're starting to ruin it and take that young kid fun out of it. Not me, Louis. I will find a way no matter what this hobby throws at me, what this industry throws me as far as its landscape, no matter what companies have what licenses, I will find a way to exist in it and to always enjoy my hobby within this greater hobby. Jeremy Fout says, why do I need to learn a new language to buy cards? Kryptonites and nebulas and nonsensical nonsense. Repack trash, he says. Joe Perot says, great advice to Fanatics. Don't harm customers. But has the damage already been done? Brian, what do you think?
I think the hobby is like the human body. You know, they say the human body can repair itself in so many ways that you almost, in a short time, almost cannot do irreparable harm. Now, like if you drink like Mickey Mantle, eventually your liver can't fix itself. But like if you drink for 5 years, your body can repair itself. Your lungs can repair themselves from a limited amount of smoking, whatever it is. I think the hobby's the same way. Listen, this hobby's been through a lot. It's amazing how resilient this hobby has been. To me, that's the best evidence that we're not going anywhere in the short term, is we've been through much worse times than we've gone through in the last year or two. And the amount of cards being sold now is still staggering. It's billions and billions of dollars. Topps is going to do over $500 million in baseball cards alone this year. $500 million in baseball alone. Like, for a minute, the damage has not been done too much, but if we continue to alienate customers and make them numbers on a spreadsheet, eventually, as more and more of them get to a stage in life where it's not live and die by baseball cards, like I'm kind of finally at, we can say no. We can just say, sorry, out. Peace out.
Yeah.
And I think that's the risk. I don't think the damage can make it irreparable. I just think we may lose all the customers that have been loyal to the business. And we got to keep finding new customers.
People are going to get turned off if they're not seeing value in what they're buying out of new
value, and it's hard right now. It's hard.
Colin Murray says vintage will always sell regardless of future value. Bobby Burrell follows up with this. I think this is a really insightful comment. When vintage drops, as boomers will, other than the top 7, it will come back because it will get to the point of being cheap enough to build sets again. I think that's really looking forward right there.
It's a forward-thinking thing. The problem is you have to have people buying new products to have new people interested in vintage that weren't interested before.
True.
Like, how do we get Brody the kid? And again, he's not really a kid anymore. He's a big-ass guy now. But, like, how do we get Brody to lose his interest for the NFL and start buying 56 tops and put together a set where he doesn't know if Rip Rapolsky is a comedian or a St. Louis Cardinal? Like, this is the problem is Are you ever really going to collect a set where you don't know anything about 90% of the players in the set? That's a question.
Yeah.
And it's a legit question. The other problem is the barriers to entry in building these vintage sets. Listen, it's never going to get cheap enough that you're going to buy high-grade copies at peanuts. Those days are over. So again, in the world where building a 52 top set means you got to buy a nice Pathgo for $30,000 or $20,000, $15,000, and no one knows who Andy Pathgo is unless you built 52 tops or know the set, or maybe you're a diehard fan. But, I just don't think we get those people back. I think we lose a lot of them. That's why
you're right about. I think it comes back to the key Hall of Famers, the people who because it comes down to history, and people are always going to care about history.
They're going to care about the 7, the sweet 7 or 10 or whatever it is.
Yep, agreed. Scott here says, we did that on T. Jones. Yeah, it's called capitalism. We did see that comment already. Rippin' Wax says, can we bring up Whatnot and TikTok? I sell on both, and the sales 100% are getting very close. He follows up here, Brian. So what are your thoughts on seeing TikTok become Whatnot's top competitor? The sales are getting very close. I sell on both, not to mention fees are very different. Whatnot's spending big on ads on TikTok. What are your thoughts on this TikTok Whatnot?
I just signed up for a TikTok shop so that I can stream on TikTok. Possible. I could see myself maybe doing that. I think what's happening is the people on Whatnot that have huge followings are going to continue to dominate everything. The problem is, and again, I can bring it to 6 accounts. I mean, it's basically Backyard Bleacher, KK, Cardboard 47. There's really, you can bring it to 7 or 8 accounts on Whatnot in the card space that dominate the category. And outside of those, it's a bunch of people fighting for scraps because all the eyeballs are there. I mean, like I started streaming on KK, and I'm doing 2 shows in January, keep an eye, auction shows, where I do a 4 or 5 hour auction show on KK. They have 77,000 followers. I'm getting triple the traffic that I was getting when I was doing it under my account. And so I'm finding our collaboration with them has been huge because they've got the eyeballs. But if you're a little guy and listen, it was hard for me to build a customer base and people know who I am. Imagine if you're a small store trying to build a customer base on Whatnot today, it's impossible. You'll have 5 people in your room. So yeah, and even Backyard, they're on TikTok. A bunch of guys are. So what TikTok's been very good about is much more reasonable fees. They've given you a reason to want to be there. But again, I think you're taking some risk because, again, you're dealing with an entity that could disappear tomorrow, because the government is trying to find a way to get TikTok off of every phone in America because they think security risk. Again, I think what might happen is you may see Whatnot become more competitive on pricing to try to get people to come back and focus there. I think the hard part's going to be how Fanatics Live is going to make real inroads. Dude Perfect was a great idea. I loved it. I think it's a phenomenal thing because that's how we're going to grow the hobby. Now, we're not going to 10X, like Michael Rubin said, the amount of dollars spent in the hobby with Dude Perfect. But the number of people that can collect, that's why I want to make the AI cards and why I want them to have Dude Perfect on them. Because we can 10X the number of collectors. We can't 10X the money because if I get someone to buy a Taylor Swift card, they're not going to go buy a $2,000 box at Affinitive. That's not realistic. But we can 10X the number of people. And the way to do that is through things that people might actually collect. Stuff that's fun, novelty, interesting. And I think, I think that's part of it. So it's interesting. Who knows?
Couple questions here. Vintage Card Collector says, Brian, what are a few keys you are looking at when you believe it's time to be bullish again, like you mentioned earlier with the 51 Bowman mantle?
I need to see, and this is really bad because I don't know if it's going to happen. I need to see the most staunch believers give up. That's what you need to see in the stock market too. Like right now, everybody is bullish except for a handful of famous bears like Michael Burry from The Big Short. He's still a bear. He thinks this market's going to implode. When Michael Burry turns positive, that's when the market will implode. You've got to turn the last naysayer. You got to get them to flip. So once the vintage gurus are starting to get nervous and worried, that'll be the time. That'll be the floor. That'll be the floor is when you see the biggest naysayers start to get scared. And then look at this. When the market peaked, you had guys that thought new cards were garbage, auction houses that specialized in vintage. Like REA all of a sudden had all these brand new cards in their auctions. They were always a vintage house. You see a bunch of brand new shiny stuff there. That's when you knew you hit the top, because even the most staunch advocates of only buying vintage and staying away from the new shiny stuff, they were all dealing in new shiny stuff. No, you couldn't find anyone that said cards were a horrible investment. Even the guys that didn't have this everything's going to go up mentality were like, yeah, things are doing pretty good. Can't complain. They're scared to say anything negative because they're going to be wrong most of the time.
Simon here, Brian. Simon says, as someone who has had to deal with autographs, how much more time and work is it to get on-card autographs versus stickers?
Yeah, and this I hate, because that's one of the places that I feel I'm disappointed in what I was able to get done at Leaf. I'm just going to be honest. Because I wanted to do on-card. We can't do it. It's impossible. Because here's the thing. We were getting the biggest names in the world to sign at Leaf. Like when Panini couldn't get Giannis to sign, we had Giannis. When we just got names that you couldn't get any other way than the way we were getting them. And the thing is, you had to get a bunch signed at one time. Sometimes it was on 2 days' notice. Like when we got Michael B. Jordan for Pop Century recently, we had 4 days' notice to get him. So if we didn't do stickers, we weren't getting him. Well, it's like you can't print the cards, and then let's say we're gonna do Giannis, and we do 1,000 or 2,000 autographs. We can't print, and all of our cards are numbered to 10, 5, 8, 7. What are we gonna do? Print 20 sets worth of Giannis cards at once for one signing? Like, we can't build products that way. So in order to make things ultra rare and keep things in ultra limited quantities, we had to do stickers, and it sucks. Now the good news is, I can name a bunch of really good cards that you better be careful if you own them. For example, 2009 Bowman Mike Trout's autographs. That's a good card, right? It's an iconic card. If you look carefully, a lot of those autographs are starting to fade. Look at the Pujols stuff from 01. Almost all Pujols' upper deck stuff looks horrible. Horrible. We even at Leaf 2011 Metal Football, the Cam Newton year. I had a guy one time send in an Andy Dalton. He said, "Hey, this card never got signed. Can you fix it?" And I looked in under high power light, the ink disappeared. They used a different pen. We used a different pen that year. We used a Bic marker instead of a Statler, and the ink just disappears. Look at sweet spot cards with that. Look at all these different cards over the years that have horrible autographs. Hell, look at some of the new products where the autographs are getting jacked up on the card. They sign them and they're already fading or smeared or whatever. That doesn't happen with stickers. I hate to tell you, sticker autographs hold up better. Again, as a purist, I wish people would, I wish the player would have touched my card. Yeah, I get that. But I also want value. And the ability to have a card that's going to have ink on it 10 years from now makes me feel a lot better. And there's a lot of cards with fading ink, a lot.
I've noticed that the new Topps products, like the Bowman with the chrome finish, the ink stays on the ink. At the age these cards are at now, it's laid down beautifully. Like it looks like that ink is there for quite some time, but I guess time will tell. As Mike Petty here says, Bic pens fade. T-Dot here says cards is a fun but cold market, and I don't see it. Like I'm not seeing the coldness of the market. Wherever values are, but I feel like there's a lot of people that are still having a great time in the hobby right now from what I'm seeing at the shops I'm going into, the shows I'm going to. There's tons of money being spent right now. There is no shortage of money. And I think there's a lot of interest as well. Even at the Expo in Toronto in November, the most kids I'd ever seen at a show. I think that's a good sign. Jeff Hart says, agree. There's so much history to buy, plenty of ways to enjoy the hobby. Ankesh follows up and says, my comment was directed to the companies. They don't actually care about it the way
that's
claim.
Right. I knew Ankesh too. I didn't think Ankesh would be calling me out. But again, a lot of companies do give lip service. And some don't, though. Like I'm telling you, I know guys at Panini, and I know everyone says Panini doesn't care. They do this, this, and this. I promise you, I texted one of my friends at Panini today just to say Happy New Year, see how things are going. This guy cares about the business. I swear to you. And not just the business, the customers. Like he is vehemently committed to taking care of customers. So just a second, let's don't throw out the bathwater and say that these companies don't care as a blanket statement. They can do things that seem insensitive or less thoughtful or less, attentive to the consumer than we want it to be, but by no means are they, trying to, just give lip service across the board. I don't think that's a fair statement.
Okay, Minnesota Sports Card Junkie follows up what I was just saying. Seeing young kids working deals on cards at the Toronto Expo was refreshing to see. Great lessons learned from wins and losses that extend to other aspects in life. I couldn't agree with that more.
100%.
Minnesota, I think that the hobby is a great environment. Take away the gambling aspect of it, and even if these kids are smart and recognize that and stay away from some of that, I think it's a great environment to negotiate with adults face to face, build
Best thing ever happened to me, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think so. I think for sure. T-Dot says followers are the new world economy. Like Probstein gets top dollars. Followers equals trust and legitimacy, which is there's a lot of fake followers out there. 2, vintage card collector says, Brian, your thoughts on the trend of getting vintage rookie cards signed, especially higher grade copies, not beat up ones.
Love it. Love it. I still think there's opportunity. And I do that a lot. That's one of the things in retirement I've been buying. And again, less vintage really, but I'm starting to buy vintage. I've been doing way more buying unique stuff to get signed because what I found honestly is, and this applies to new stuff too. Like getting kabooms and color blast signed. Like no one does that because they're scared as hell to ruin great cards or that they might be ruining great cards. If you have a Giannis color blast signed by Giannis, like in green, and that card's a PSA 1010, you're getting a number that's going to blow your freaking mind. Never mind good vintage, where you actually getting your trying to think of a vintage person that's still alive. So many of them have died off now. But like, let's say you're getting Roger Staubach on a 72 tops, and even he's not doing too well either, so he won't be signing much longer. But even then, getting a 72 Staubach and a 7 or 8 signed versus what most people do, they go buy 3s and 4s that are dog shit to get signed. Man, really nice ones are really nice, and they're worth something. They're worth having in high grade, and then you'll see the prices are out of this world because no one, and that's why I know guys that when they get Griffey to sign rookies, like I just bought cheap Griffies for $50 on eBay. These guys are going out buying PSA 10s for $3,000, cracking them out, getting them signed, and resubbing them, trying to 1010 them again. Mm-hmm. Like that's ballsy, but when you hit, it's 15,000.
Right.
So it's like that's a new game, and you're right, vintage card collector. That's a whole new game, and it's getting bigger and bigger.
The professor says, what do you think about the new owners of Leaf using automated grading services like Tag to demonstrate quality of the card before it goes into a sealed holder, like a Leaf sealed holder?
Again, they'll do what they want to do now because I'm obviously not involved at all. But again, I think what Tag does is quite interesting. And in full disclosure, Leaf is an investor in Tag. I will tell you that I think the challenge is as these technologies are continuing to roll up, and they're growing a company there, they don't have time either to screen every card Leaf makes. Nor does Leaf have time to run every card through a machine to be able to, before they come out, we could barely get stuff out as fast as we wanted to already. Now, with that being said, what Leaf has done that I think other companies should do is Leaf guarantees a minimum grade for replacement. And if the company and the person disagree about that grade, we would use a third party like Beckett Raw Card Review to determine the grade by which we based our customer service on. That has value. And maybe down the line, it's Tag that we say, hey, Tag scores of 700 or higher meet our customer service standard. And once the machines are out there, eventually we'd love to have a machine here in Dallas. Maybe we will at some point, whether it's at Leaf or somewhere else, where you can have your cards graded remotely from these locations. That can be really practical for customer service someday. I think it's not a bad idea, but that's going to be on the grading company also to make it an easy relationship like Beckett has for Leaf.
Any predictions into 2024? We're gonna wind up the show. We're almost at 2.5 hours, Brian, but we got 200 people with us. We got over 200 people with us across all the platforms right now. So I don't want to wrap it up quite yet. But before here's a question just comes in on Instagram. The Uber collector asks, what do you consider Leaf's finest and most collectible product if you had to choose one, year and product?
Finest and most collectible product. To me, I think I'll pull out Pop Century first. I think Pop Century will go down as being one of the most important product sets ever released over a 10-year period. Because I am convinced that Fanatics and Panini are going to put massive resources behind entertainment. And I think the focus that's going to go into entertainment is going to be at a level to where you're going to crap your pants. Like, I think you're going to see these companies go full bore. And if they don't, they're fools. That's where this business is going to grow, is in the because it appeals to everyone all over the world. And so the addressable market is so much bigger than American sports. It's silly. So with that being said, I think that's going to be the most important group of products, but I don't want to put those in the sports side. I will tell you, I think for Leaf, the crowning achievement was probably the very first Pearl set. Pearl Multisport. And I'll tell you why, and Greg was so instrumental behind this. It really was the first time, or maybe it was Oval Office when I made Oval Office. It's one of these sets, Oval Office, or it could be Pearl, which Greg did amazing on. I did Oval Office. I think these products established, or Q, or these products established that an unlicensed or player licensed product could be a $1,000 or $2,000, $3,000 box. Like, we never had a $3,000 box of cards from an unlicensed company. It was unthinkable. But like, with the right autograph content and the right quality and the right scarcity and all the pieces coming in, beautiful cards, all the pieces fitting in place. And to me, that is why the legitimacy long-term of unlicensed, I have no fear about that space. As Panini may end up being in that space. When they lose their licenses, they may be the next Leaf.
Well,
with their
I want to
brands.
listen.
I think those are the products you're going to look back and say those were groundbreaking, in that they paved the way for unlicensed or player license to approach the high end. Never been done before, and may never have ever gotten done had Leaf not done it.
Let's move forward. 2024. It's right around the corner, 2 days from now. I wanted to get your thoughts on any predictions, any consolidations, any partnerships you see coming out between different companies in the hobby, in the industry. But start with Panini, please. What is in store for Panini's future as far as Panini America goes once they have no more license?
Again, my situation is purely speculative. I have no inside information. I don't work for Panini. I'm not a consultant for them, nor am I with Fanatics. I'm just giving you opinions. Mm-hmm. Panini has two strategies they can employ. There's two different routes they can take. Number one is when the licenses are gone, you go full-blown Leaf. Caution of the wind. And can you imagine Panini doing Leaf with Panini brands? Like, that could be deadly. Very strong. And their money they make would be insane, because when you don't pay in the leagues all that money, your margins go up tremendously. They'd kill it. Now, the other option is you don't go that route. You stay friendly with the leagues. You don't cross over. You don't do anything wrong, because what if things don't work out with Fanatics like everyone thinks they're going to, or like Fanatics will tell you they will? They want to be there, because if the thing falls apart, they can pick up the pieces. Yeah. Now, they have those two distinct routes. I don't know which one they're going to take. I tend to think they might go the distinguished route, but that will definitely cut their profits. They'll make way less money that way. If they became a Leaf, it'd be deadly what they could make. They could make a lot. What are your big predictions? Not for what players are going to get hot or what cards are going to go up in value. What are your predictions for the hobby this coming year? We had a lot of news this year. We've had a lot of news every year for the past several years. What is your big prediction? What are your predictions going into 2024? I think the big ones, I do not think you'll see any kind of Panini Fanatics marriage or deal. I think they're going to trial. So I think that's still 2 years away, the trial. But I think anyone who predicts this is the year Panini and Fanatics get married, or they take over the licenses early, this is a war. This is going all the way. This lawsuit, if that courtroom is not packed every day with hobby people, I'll be shocked. The minute I find out when the trial is, I'll be booked there with Paul Lesko to broadcast live like Court TV outside the venue. But so there will be no marriage. The war is going to get worse.
What about elsewhere, outside of Panini and Fanatics?
I mean, outside of that, I would say nosebleed cards are an avoid at all cost. I think we're going to see much more pain there. I think the nosebleed cards are much, much, much more painful than we've seen so far. I can see a retracement on high-end stuff, another 30, 40, 50% very easily. Commodity stuff, as long as repacks keep doing what they're doing, I think it'll be a slow bleed. I think assets will continue to depreciate a little bit this next year, probably. But more of that is my global concern about the economy and about the fact the stock market's been go-go gadget, even in the face of huge interest rates and inflation. That is counterintuitive. It doesn't work that way. Long term, there's going to be a price to pay. So I do think these assets could devalue. With that being said, if you don't mind taking a little gamble, and obviously hobby people are not immune to gambling, there will be opportunities. You just got to have the balls to say, screw it, Justin Herbert's not done.
Right.
But again, the assets haven't retraced enough for it to be so compelling that you got a monster upside. No one knows what the upside is anymore because we're looking at a chart from COVID. So we don't really know what the real ceiling is. We do know the floor because we saw that. But like, we don't really know what the chart should look. It's not like when the chart's out of control. Like, you can't really think of, well, the high was this. Well, that high doesn't matter. You have such a narrow range. I just think we're going to see a continual trend down. For me, I wouldn't be a long-term investor in cards. I would tell people, buy what you like, enjoy it. If you want to buy cases and have fun and break and do these things you want to do, it's great. If you're really looking for long-term value, I'd probably buy guys that are the next group of GOATs. I think at this stage, I would probably look at guys that are close to going in the Hall of Fame that have underappreciated rookie cards. Honestly, guys, this sounds so stupid, but buying Bowman Chrome Adrian Beltre PSA 10s. This guy's very, very good. He's going to go in with high 90% on Adrian Beltre. He will probably be a top 4 or 5 all-time Hall of Fame vote percentage guy. And his rookie card's $150 in a PSA. There's no world under, and 97 Bowman Chrome wasn't like there's a gazillion cards out there. There's stuff like that, but it's you really want to buy and hold that? For me, it's more like looking and saying, okay, Prism Golds. When Prism's not around anymore, are those going to become iconic cards like PMGs? Are Downtowns and Kabooms?
What do you think? Are these cards?
I think they have a real chance. I do. To me, I would have no problem. Now, again, there's so many parallels. You got to pick one. I think Prism Golds, I can get my arms around. I can get my arms around Kabooms and Downtowns, even though there seem to be a lot of 2023 Downtowns relative to previous years. It feels like Kabooms and Downtowns and Color Blast, those are going to stick. And I think, so there's 2 ways to play it. You buy the Panini assets that are going to disappear and people are going to miss. Look how much refractors have gone up while Topps couldn't make refractors anymore.
Mm-hmm.
When these things are gone, I think you're going to see people come running to them. And then part 2 is, what things in the old Topps universe are going to get better because they start making them again? And I think old refractors, like buying all the old Brady's and Rogers and Manning's refractors, I love that. Jordans are already very expensive, but why not go buy the 93, 94 Shaq refractors and the rookie Grant Hill refractors and the rookie. There's a lot of good rookie refractors you can buy from that old Air Garden. There's a lot of good refractors you can buy. And
here, Brian, Skeppy just put this question up. He says, so Al Kaline is out, but Adrian Beltre is good to collect. Do you want to address that?
This is, again, a bad question. Nothing personal. It's a bad question because I can't tell you what's good to collect. What's good to collect is what you like. Collecting is by its very nature subjective. Now, from an objective standpoint, less collectors today know who Al Kaline is than did 10 years ago. And in 10 years, less will know. Now, I do agree, Adrian Beltre, in 10 years, less will have seen him play and less will know him. But there's plenty of video on Adrian Beltre. The thing is, again, I don't love Adrian. I'm not saying Adrian Beltre is a GOAT. What I'm saying is it's an undervalued asset. It's underappreciated. People don't realize that card is not overly plentiful. It's still cheap relative. It's just cheap. Again, I wouldn't invest in sports card right now. I would be staying away from all sports cards right now because, again, I think assets will get cheaper. People who collect, that's a great comment Mike just said. Kaline and Beltre collectors should buy Kaline and Beltre.
There you go.
That's what you should buy. And again, I have no problem. If you want to go buy a nice Ryan rookie and own it, there's nothing wrong with that. You want to go buy a nice Seaver rookie. You want to go buy a nice Hendersons or Montanas. To me, honestly, the best values in the market now are probably like 86 tops Rice and 7s and 8s. 81 tops Montanas and 7. You can buy 8 Montanas for $250. Like, that's an iconic card, even though it's unlicensed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even though it's unlicensed, it's an iconic card. Like, to me, if you insist on buying stuff to hold, that feels pretty good, doesn't it? Like, doesn't 81 tops, if you're a hockey guy, doesn't buying Lemieux tops 8s at $250 feel like a good buy? Or like Walls at $150 for 8s or whatever they are. Like, these are the iconic guys, and they're affordable. Like, it just feels like they're the GOATs, and these are affordable, easy to buy rookie cards that I cannot see them being half what they are today.
Yeah, I think it just has to do with, you know, you have to obviously take into account population and print run and all that, and that's why they are affordable, because there's enough supply out there
but there's
everybody.
no supply today.
Right. Agreed.
There's a lot of things that look very plentiful that end up not being plentiful.
I want to do this. Richard Goring probably left, but says, great show, fellas. Even though I don't agree 100% with Brian, I appreciate what he has done for the hobby and his thoughts for the future. Very interesting show. Have a great night. Thank you for that as well.
That's very nice.
Then Ultimate Victory has asked this one a couple times. Will Barry Bonds be worth anything? Brian, your thoughts?
When he gets, see, again, I don't price, someone mentioned Beltray too. I don't price in Hall of Fame bumps. What I look more at is, will people look at a player and change their perspective? If Bonds were to get in, I do believe people might change their perspective. If the steroid guys were decriminalized, so to speak, like marijuana, which was so bad a few years ago, now it's everywhere, it's decriminalized. If Barry Bonds was de-humiliated and de-punished, I could see people buying him. Again, I think with Beltray, it's just going to bring awareness. But again, there's 50 other things that can create awareness. That, like, again, Travis Kelce stuff has gone up a lot this year. And his play's been good, but Taylor's better. And, like, things happen that change how people collect and change your perspective. If Wander had not been chased down by the police this week and he was back in the league, he'd be great. Giddey is probably going to be okay. He's probably not going to get in trouble. Giddey is probably a buy here. You know? But, like, again, we have to look at what's going to change consumer behavior. And when that changes consumer behavior, then it can impact the value of all these guys. And I love Ken Golden, too. He's a great dude.
Ken Golden says, we love Brian. And as far as Bonds, he is the greatest hitter of all time. I remember seeing...
The greatest hitter. He's the best home run hitter, maybe. The best hitter is probably George.
Do you remember
Williams?
Did you see when Ken did an Instagram live with Barry Bonds? I mean, that was pretty epic.
That was great. I love that. I love Ken.
That was very cool. A zombie line here says, Brian, what is your Cowboys helmet sitting behind your head? What's that?
That is it. Let me see what it is. I think it's Emmett. He wrote 2BG from one goat to another.
There you go.
Good stuff. What's cooler is the Super Bowl helmet over there is Madonna. Signed full-size, signed full-size helmet of Madonna from the year she did the halftime show. That's got to be like a pop 1 or 2. Who's going to ever see Madonna with a full-size helmet? That's pretty sick.
Any other, Brian, before we wrap up, any other predictions for the industry / hobby for next year?
I mean, I think we're going to see very little consolidation. I think when we see like we've seen a lot of companies get bought up like mine, which I think if you didn't sell in 2022 or 2023, you might have missed the window. If we see consolidation now, it's going to be need-based. We didn't have to sell Leaf. Leaf is still going to make a lot of money this year. You're going to see need-based consolidation if you see consolidation. Companies that realize they just can't go it on their own. And I think you could see it in the grading space. You could see it in the autograph authentication space. You could see it in the manufacturing space, potentially. Probably not in the manufacturing space, but potentially. You could see, I mean, there's places you could see. So I think the consolidation rush we saw where everyone was getting bought, that's over. I think some deals that were done previously may get unwound. You may see companies like Beckett divest assets. You may see PSA divest assets. You may see asset divestment coming up because they bought things that may not fit their business, or they may have made some appreciation on it. They want to cash it back out. That's part of buying businesses is you buy them, you doll them up, and you turn them a lot of times. And so I think you could see some selling that way. So I think this rush of like, oh, every company's getting bought up in the business, that rush is over now. I may have been the last one. Maybe ComC's investment from eBay. I mean, those are some of the last ones, I think. I think the bigger prediction for this year is Fanatics has a chance to be the greatest thing that ever happened to this industry or the worst thing. And I think the next 12 months, we're going to come out of this knowing which it is.
Interesting.
And I'm scared Fanatics won't do what it takes. And I'm not just saying that because I think I could help them, but I think with a few smart people added to what they've already got, which is a bunch of smart people, but having like real people that are like real hobby people who are like not just veterans from other companies, but have been on the ground, like on the ground in every level. And more recently, man, I think it would be very smart of them to do that. And how Panini adapts will be obvious. That's going to be the best stories of the year, Panini and Fanatics. How are they going to adapt to a changing world?
Right.
And Fanatics, I think my biggest prediction is I think at the end of 12 months, it will be official if Fanatics is the best or worst thing to ever happen to the business. And I think it will be one or the other. I do not think there is a middle ground.
So there you have it. Next year,
if it's the worst, then I would not recommend buying cards at all because the industry will be at risk. But I think I know Michael Rubin. I consider him a friend. And I will tell you, I think he's smart enough to do what he needs to do here. And it's not going to be easy to do what he needs to do. But if he can do it, I think he can prove to the hobby that he cares and that he's not a hit and runner and he's here for the long run.
Do you think he's listening to the right people? Do you think he has the right people in his corner right now?
Has some good people there.
I don't mean smart people. I mean, and I don't mean people that come from other. I don't mean genius marketers that come from other companies. I mean people who understand this very unique hobby.
Again, I would like to see them announce a chief hobby officer who has the biggest breadth of knowledge in the industry and has the ability to help be a voice of the hobby in those offices. Not just the business of the hobby, but the hobby. Someone that could actually be at Fanatics who could also represent the consumer inside that building. And that's going to be a hard thing to do because very few people will stand up to a powerful leader like Michael Rubin. But if that unique person exists who could go in there and make a difference, that'd be interesting. And again, I say the same thing at Panini. This is their chance to get wildly creative. And I think the same thing happens at Leaf. Me leaving, it's a great opportunity for them because now they can make Leaf their own instead of the Brian Gray show, which was a circus. It didn't need to be the Brian Gray show. It turned out that way. Those guys are really talented. Let's see what they do with the ability to go more corporate, quit doing some of the crazy stuff I did. I did crazy stuff because I think the hobby needed it. They may not think so.
All right.
So this is so fast. I just can't wait. I do know one thing. Jeremy Lee will be here to talk about it. Whatever.
I will be here. I'll have you back a year from now. We'll find out.
Well, hopefully it's not a whole year. I'm not really relevant anymore, though. So probably unless something big happens, who knows?
Maybe we'll have you back in between, but we'll have you back a year from now, and we'll figure out what the fate of Fanatics was and what the fate of the hobby is at that point in time.
And if I'm dressed in a black suit with a pitchfork and I'm the Grim Reaper, you'll know that. And if I'm wearing a party hat and singing 1999 from Prince, you'll know, or Celebrate from Kool and the Gang, you'll know it's a good thing.
Definitely. Here, Joe Pro says, good on Brian for prioritizing health and family. Enjoy your well-earned respite from running a company.
Good vocabulary. I like respite.
Yeah, not bad. Well, Joe's a smart fella. Happy New Year to you, Skeppy. Vintage Card Collector says Brian should be a quarterly guest. Happy New Year to you, Ripin Wax. Really appreciate the comments. Ankesh, thanks for being here. Good to see you, pal. Albert Jones, Happy New Year. All right, Brian, we're done. Let everybody know what you want them to know about what you're up to these days with your various socials.
Listen. For now, you can find me bigbridedeals.com. I have deals on my website that are exclusive to me. Killer deals. I think you can buy Pop Century Santas that were never in packs this year. You can get those only from my website. Go to Big Bride Deals, but also I stream on KK Consignment. I'm doing my shows over there with them. They have 77,000 followers, and I've been doing phenomenal single card shows there. I got 2 coming up in January. Just keep an eye. But in the meanwhile, I'm retired right now, but I'll give you the first hint, Jeremy. I don't know how much longer that's going to be full retirement. I have a feeling I'll have a part-time gig in the next 30 days. Not because I want to, but because the hobby needs me to.
You're retired, but you're not going quiet. That's for sure.
Definitely not going
You can follow him on Instagram, follow him on Twitter, especially. That's really where you're active, is on Twitter, or X now. Brian, we're gonna wrap up. Thank you for joining, as always.
Pleasure.
Appreciate having you.
And,
3 hours almost.
My friend Rage 508 Cards and Growls. I love you too, and I won't apologize for Tiger King. I will say that I don't ever endorse violence or bad behavior, but I love American pop culture and the impact it has on collectibles.
And with that, everybody, this episode of Sports Cards Live is over. Thank you for joining. Please subscribe. We'll listen on podcast. We'll be back next Saturday. Brian, thanks again. This episode.
Jeremy, I love you, buddy. Happy New Year, man.
Stay right there for a sec, Brian. This episode of Sports Cards Live